In a world where voices are silenced,
Please.
one man refuses to lie down.
It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
He's been punted not once,
40 years they've been trying.
not twice,
You couldn't fire somebody if they were horrible, doing a terrible job.
but 3 times.
You're fired.
He doesn't tell you what to think, but gives you something to think about. Welcome to the Bonafide Podcast with Luke Boner. And he's not
All right, here we go.
done
Hold your ears, folks.
yet.
It's showtime.
Well, g'day and welcome to the Bonafide Podcast with me, Luke Boner. And we have a lot in store for you. Can you believe it? We've reached episode 117. It's the podcast where we don't tell you what to think. I just like to give you something to think about. And have we got a lot to think about today, folks? But look, it all works out better if you get involved. If you leave us your voice messages, if you leave us emails, let us know what's on your mind. And look, make sure that you get involved because it's your podcast too. I'm just the conduit. I'm just the conduit. So let's get into it. Remember to follow or subscribe to the show on whatever app you listen to because it does help us find new audiences. And a reminder that the merch store is now open. I don't have any. I'm going to pay full freight. Where's my merch? And my daughter Holly said, she wants a coffee cup. If Holly gets you some Qantas pajamas, can we get her a bona fide coffee cup?
Yeah, we can do a swapsies.
You're not feeling too well today, little millennial. What's wrong, darling? You're just not yourself.
Oh, I think I just picked up the nephew's cold that he got from kindy. So
Yep.
it's just the way that it is.
One day when you have children, you will find that little children, especially when they go to childcare, you will become a Petri dish. You will also discover head lice and KP24. That's another topic altogether. Thank God for KP24 and the little metal
Mum
lice
never
cones.
got us the proper whatever it is.
KP24,
She always just put eucalyptus oil on our head.
yeah.
We
It
never
does.
got like the brand name stuff ever.
No, that's your mum. Your mum
Yeah.
wraps everybody's presents in newspaper. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I actually think is ingenious.
No, she's very. We were brought up the hard way. Our parents went through a world war and a depression, Kelsey.
Yeah.
People used to actually darn socks. They used to fix holes in socks, Kelsey.
Wow.
We had a bloke up the road who fixed tellies. You don't fix tellies anymore. You put them out the curbside cleanup and go get another one.
Yeah, but they do that on purpose now though.
It's called planned obsolescence. We know
Yeah.
that.
Not just planned obsolescence, but they actually make things harder to fix. Like, I think it was in the UK, they brought in laws like the right to repair laws where they're kind of trying to stop manufacturers from making their equipment. I think James Ward was talking about this on your last chat with him about like manufacturers making it impossible for mechanics to actually repair cars these days.
It's probably something we can do a deeper dive with James on, but so many car manufacturers, their cars are programmed to stuff up when the warranty's over. They get you to the warranty and then you're on your own. Hey, listen, we're going to talk about Australia's massive gambling issue. You remember we were talking about the referee Ashley Klein and how easy it is to get sucked into and go down that dark hole, the rabbit hole, which is gambling. How gambling and the big gambling companies are surreptitiously entering our lives and our consciousness, our subconscious, our front and back of minds through subtle advertising, and how easy it is to get hooked. And the fact that just in New South Wales, they have nearly as many poker machines in clubs and pubs in New South Wales as the whole of Las Vegas. It's amazing. And of course, they bring in a lot of revenue, but what damage do they cause? Anyway, we're going to talk about gambling. We're going to talk to Jonathan Kearsley, who's our man live in Washington, thanks to Sky News. Just when we thought the peace deal with Iran was all set, ready to go, today, Friday, it was all going to be signed in Switzerland, and then happy days, it could be all over again. Could be all off. So we'll talk to James about that, and also this attempted terrorist attack on the UFC fight at the White House. And it was one mother who noticed her son's strange behaviour. She reported it to the authorities, and they've uncovered what could have been an absolute massacre. We'll have the inside story on all of that. And the man cave with a very good mate of mine, Tony Bonner. He was Jerry, the chopper pilot in Skippy. He was a heartthrob. And, you know, for a man in his late 70s, he still is. He's doing very, very well. Tony has been fighting for many years now for some kind of royalty or merchandise and residuals on the reruns of Skippy, and he will explain that journey to all of us a little bit later on.
Something to think about, something to laugh about. We're talking.
Pauline Hanson, the One Nation leader who's soaring in the polls, addressed the National Press Club for the very, very first time. Remember, she's been at this since she was elected as the member for Oxley back in 1996 in that famous maiden speech in Canberra. Well, she was the keynote speaker in Canberra at the National Press Club. It wasn't without its dramas. There was a protest that was brought about by GetUp. You won't believe who the organiser of that was, David Shiraz. Now, I used to know David when he was a newsreader on 2CC in Canberra. He, of course, is now the partner and husband of Brittany Higgins.
Oh.
That's how we know David Shiraz. He was escorted from the press club yesterday, and there is now going to be a federal investigation as to how they got in there and sabotaged it. Really, do we need the AFP to be looking into this? It was a breach. It was a breach of security that they're worried about. How did GetUp get in there and organise it? That's what they're concerned about. Yeah. Anyway, that was David Shiraz and GetUp. So Pauline Hanson has said a couple of things which we can explore. She said that Australia shouldn't be multicultural, we're multiracial. I guess this is up for interpretation, and Kelsey, Thomas tells me we may well be talking to Pauline Hanson next week. Because I don't speak for Pauline Hanson and I'm not an apologist for her, but I want to know what she actually means, because at the very beginning of her speech, she said, notice there's no welcome to country. It's divisive. And then she said, who I do want to thank are the immigrants that came here and died and fought for Australia to preserve our democracy. So she's pro-immigration there, but what does she mean by we're not multicultural? She says we're multiracial. So is she saying she doesn't want people from other countries to come here and show us their culture, speak their language?
Yeah.
I don't know what she means. And I want to ask her before I jump to a conclusion.
Yeah. From what I read from that article, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. She said that we should be a monoculture. But
what does that mean?
So only have one culture. And my question...
But what is our culture is a bit of everything.
I know
Our very culture is a bit of everything. And do you know
I will
what?
agree with you wholeheartedly there, Luke. I had exactly the same question. That would be my question too.
I'm going to ask her.
Yeah, ask her, because that's what I was thinking. I was like, well, and I mean, I guess like the World Cup is like a pretty good example of this. The Australian team is made up of every single type of Australian you can imagine, right? It's like there's refugees in there. There's colours of every type. There's, born and raised in Sydney. There's every single type of Australian. Can I ask you, Luke, what do you think Australian culture is?
A fair go, honesty, hard work, obeying the laws of the land. And I'm not a religious person, as you know, but you know what Christ said that I love? Do to your fellow man as you'd have him do to you. Of all the scriptures, and no matter what religion you are, whether you be Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, whatever, if you just say that one thing that Christ said, treat your fellow man as you'd have them treat you, if we do that, we're all through to the semis without dropping a set.
Yeah.
So what is Australian culture? I mean, Indigenous people might say, Pauline, when Europeans came here and we were colonised, you ruined our culture. You came here and stuffed up our culture. So what's the definition of Australian culture? I think a fair go, hard work, and obey the law of the land. And if you disagree with basically that, and you want to form a caliphate and not obey our laws, well, don't come here.
I would like you to also ask what happens to all of like the Chinese takeaways and the Thai takeaways, all of those. What happens to them if we have a monoculture?
Well, we'll miss them. 100%. I'll tell you a quick story because we've got a lot to get through. You know my dad, Brian Boner. Did you ever meet my dad?
No.
Oh, you would have loved him. You would have loved him. But so his grandfather, so my great-grandfather, my adopted dad, this is Brian Boner who adopted me, originally from Italy, hence the name Boner. Boner. Dad was so disappointed that his grandfather, his father's father, when they came to Australia in the early 1900s, so disappointed that Italian was forbidden to be spoken because he came here and said, we're not going to speak Italian, we're going to learn English, we're going to fit in and be an Aussie. And what a shame that Dad didn't grow up multilingual. I mean, you look at how cool would it be to speak two languages? My granddaughter is going to speak English and Portuguese.
And Portuguese, I know. And also kids that can speak multiple languages also like tend to
They have an edge.
Their brains like develop fast. I can't remember the neuroscience behind it, but it's good for brain development if you can speak multiple languages.
I think English is our first language and should be taught at schools.
Of course,
but learning
definitely.
another language should be encouraged. And if it's part of your background, how lucky are you? I am so envious of people who grew up in a bilingual household. I'm so envious, but that's just me.
But what was what were they protesting at the press conference? What was it that they were actually protesting against?
Yeah, it was that big yellow sign in the background, and the sign criticised Pauline Hanson for voting against wage increases for workers while accepting a pay rise for herself. That's all it said. And it was it was organised by the advocacy group GetUp.
I did read, and I wonder what you think about this, Luke. Pauline Hanson is very much for making it easier to fire workers. That's
right. She said that, yeah.
Do you think that is something that we need to be looking at?
Well, it can unfair dismissal laws. I think she thinks. See, once again, I'm not an apologist for Pauline Hanson. I'll ask her next week. She has had a lot of reports from business owners who say, I can't fire this person. They've lied. They're lazy. And the unfair dismissal laws have completely shackled me, and I can't get rid of them. It's too hard to get rid of these people who don't want to work. But please don't ask me to interpret Pauline Hanson. Let's ask her. Let's ask her ourselves next week when we get her on the podcast. Shall we do that? And I'm sure she'll talk to me because, number one, I'm not from the ABC, and number two, I'm not from The Guardian. I tell you one thing. I think the highbrow, hand-wringing journalists that frequent the press club, I think a lot of them thought Pauline Hanson's going to be held to account here, and she's going to stumble. She's going to have a please explain moment, and she's going to fall over. And I think they left disappointed. Yes, she is not a smooth talker. She's not a great oracle. She's not a polished public speaker. But I think that's part of her charm at the moment.
Yeah.
I think people are sick of charming, polished politicians. And I think that the Bob Catters and the Pauline Hansons are kind of in favour at the moment. Remember, 2 years to go until the election. But I think, mind you, the format of that press conference at the press club, Kelsey, wasn't Q&A. You asked a question and it was over. So there wasn't any pushback. The pushback comes what you read in the papers and what you see on telly from those journalists present the next day or in days afterwards. But it wasn't a Q&A debate because that can go on forever. So there wasn't much pushback from the journalists there. There was lots of applause, you might have heard. But we'll have to wait and see what the fallout is between now and when we talk to her next week. Now, just while you mentioned the World Cup, there is a petition on the Gold Coast, Kelsey, from a group of football fans. They've got about 7,000 signatures, and they're pushing for a public holiday if Australia gets to the final knockout rounds of the World Cup. Not winning.
Woohoo! I know, not winning.
Not winning, but just getting further down the track. Now, we've got USA coming up on Saturday, 5 o'clock in the morning. I'll be watching that because there's
I thought it was on Friday.
Saturday morning.
Oh.
If we beat the USA, I'll be very, very happy. But
yeah, same.
A public holiday for just moving forward? You're kidding. Yeah, this is up there with giving a gold star for participating at school.
I know.
No. A public holiday.
I'm still
for
signing the petition though, Luke. I'm all for a public holiday.
You don't own a small business that's got to pay the extra wages, Kelsey.
I know.
Anyway.
I know.
Well, why don't we put it out there? should there be a public holiday if Australia doesn't win, but goes on to the next round? Do we get a public holiday for doing something?
Maybe.
I think it's absolutely
I reckon
stupid.
Public holiday, but the government has to pay small business owners.
Yeah, that's a taxpayer, Kelsey. So that means we're paying for it.
Yeah, that's all right. We could do that. Hey, if we're paying for bloody concierges around Canberra, we can pay small business owners for a public holiday.
Speaking of sport, I watched State of Origin 2 last night. I am so pleased it's going to a decider. We love Game 3, especially at Suncorp. But how bad was New South Wales in the second half? We were up at half time, and then Queensland, God, they're just too good. They kept coming and coming and coming. It was humiliating, 44-24. Will Laurie Daly keep his job? Well, he has to. He's there for the 3 games. But jeepers creepers, what went wrong?
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
I don't know. Do you reckon they do this on purpose though? Because
I've
it's
heard
so
this
much more
story.
fun when you're at a knockout. You know?
No, I've heard this story that when it gets to 3 games, they get more seats, they get more bums on seats, they get more TV revenue, they get more eyeballs in the game. It's all a big conspiracy. It has to go to 3 in order to make it exciting. There was a big conspiracy theory about World Series cricket when they got to the final 3. Oh, yeah, it always goes to 3. It's rigged. Very hard to rig a game involving all those players. Gambling.
You never know.
Gambling.
Well, it's kind of the same thing, isn't it? Just a quick roundup of some stories that have been making its way
let's go.
around the news cycle. Quick one, first of all, Pauline Hanson wants to cut the tobacco excise by 50%, which would cut the price by $17.
Yeah, that's right. Now, just to have a think about this. Our tobacco products are taxed at amongst the highest in the world. And the government is so hypocritical on this because they say, we want people to give up. Well, just make them illegal then. What's happened is, and I've said this a million times, you have a product that is highly addictive and then almost ban it, or, well, they may as well have, or outprice it. If it's highly addictive, you will create a black market. And that's exactly what's happened. And the tobacco wars are unbelievable. Over 200 bombings in Victoria alone in the last 12 months. If you make them cheaper, will you take away the criminal element? And this is the argument we've had on this podcast over the years, Kels. If you regulate and legalise all illegal drugs and let the government get a revenue from it and make them cheaper, you take away the criminal element. That's the argument. The government was earning $16.3 billion a year in excise from the cigarettes. It's down to $3.5 billion. And yet, people aren't giving up smoking. People aren't giving up smoking. Most people now are buying their cigarettes from a tobacco store that also sells cheesels and chips.
Yeah.
Strange.
Just another quick one, Luke.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this, but a World Cup official, Sean Evans, he pulled off, if you're on the inside of the joke, you think
I didn't get this. When I went to Channel 7 the other day, one of the floor managers said, you should have been... I didn't understand what... Yeah, explain this story because I didn't understand it.
So the people that don't know what this hand gesture is, some people thought, it's a hate symbol. It's not. I actually did have to get Nathan to explain this to me this morning because I've seen this around, but my friends didn't participate in it. Mm-hmm. So doing this symbol, right, Luke?
Yeah.
And you always do it down below, right?
Right.
If you're talking to somebody, right, and you just did that hand gesture, if they looked at your hand gesture, it was almost like a punch buggy, right? Anyone that knew what this was knew that it was like dang, he got us, he got us all, you know?
What does it mean? How? Got you how?
It's essentially like seeing a punch buggy, Luke.
Punch buggy, no returns.
Yeah, but you can make the buggy appear yourself by doing that gesture.
Can we please move on to listener mail now because I couldn't understand it. Everyone was talking about it at Channel 7 the other morning and I didn't get it.
I honestly think you're too old to understand this.
I'm too old to care, Kelsey.
Yeah, you're on the outside of the joke.
I went to the ATM bank the other day and it was completely empty. I had no more left. In fact, I'm in the red.
There you
I've
go.
completely run out of my bank balance is depleted.
Okay.
It's non-existent.
I got an email from Jamie. He said, "Hey guys, I also managed to drag the missos onto the World Cup bandwagon this year. Don't get me wrong, it's bloody brilliant having her on the couch to yell at the TV with me, but I'll be honest, it's getting a bit dicey watching her deep dive stalk half the squad on Instagram. Anyway, Sporty's the absolute beating heart of Aussie pride. It's what brings the whole country together, so I reckon it's pretty funny how Pauline Hanson has been pure crickets about the absolute masterclass our team just put on. Anyway, thought you'd get a laugh out of my predicament, Kelsey, and thought you would enjoy this story." Now, the story that he sent, it was this link on TikTok. And I don't know if you've heard about this goalkeeper from Cape Verde. Have you, Luke?
No, I haven't. Cabo Verde. Never heard.
Cabo Verde, maybe, whatever, you know. So his name is Vozinha. Luke, he's 40 years old, which is like unheard of in soccer, right? To be playing at 40 years old. And he only made his debut at 25 years old. Now, Cape Verde is a small country. They only have 530,000 people. A couple of days ago, they versed Spain, right? And Spain is the favourite to win the whole thing, right? Like, people think that Spain is going to win. Spain's population is 50 million people. So that's almost 95 times the amount of Cape Verde. So if you think about the pool of talent these teams are drawing from, you
talk about punching above their weight.
Yeah. So you would think, right, that Spain is going to go in and absolutely annihilate Cape Verde. Incorrect, because of Vozinha. He put on 7 saves, right? And they ended up drawing the game at the end of it, which people were, again, going, what the hell is going on here? Vozinha started the game with 50,000 followers on Instagram, right? An hour after the game had finished, he was at 2.2 million. Now, I checked this morning, Luke, he's got 12.9 million followers on Instagram. I know for you, you just think followers are followers, but that amount of followers will change this man's life, because now there's going to be like brand partnerships, sponsorships. He's going to be everywhere, right? Because everyone is just looking at this. 40 years old, right? He only made his debut in professional soccer at 25. It was heartwarming, Luke. Like just, did it bring a tear to your eye? Kinda.
Did it bring a tear to a glass eye? Let me just, I want to see this, but Capo Verde is a small island off West Africa.
Correct.
It's about 600. It's this tiny little place. Guess what the population is?
It's like 530,000 people.
500, about the population of Tasmania.
What? Oh, is that the same Really?
Yeah.
And they went up against the favourites to win the whole World Cup. Yeah. And they drew. That is absolutely insane. This goalkeeper, I'm down for it. I love this story. And I hope that this man, he couldn't get his mum into the country to watch the World Cup because they changed the visa laws, right? And essentially they would have had to pay like a $12,000 security deposit almost coming from Africa. And he couldn't afford that. He could not afford to get his mum into the country. Now he won't have a problem paying for anything, right? Like, this will change this man's life forever. So claps to Cape Verde.
Cabo Verde, we salute you. Can I just tell you, we should go for a holiday there. You ready? An island country consisting of 10 volcanic islands in the central Atlantic Ocean, located 600 k's off the west coast of West Africa. Known for its mix of African... Guess what? Do you know what the language is?
What? Oh, it's French?
Portuguese.
Oh, is it Portuguese?
It's the Republic of Capo Verde, population 530,000 people, and it looks beautiful. It looks really
probably
beautiful.
Is.
Hey, do you want to know something impressive before we move on? This goalkeeper's 40.
Yeah.
Guess how old LeBron James is?
No idea.
Los Angeles Lakers, one of the GOATs, if not the GOAT of NBA basketball. He's 41.
Really?
LeBron James is 41, and there's a little bit more athleticism that involved in playing basketball than there is being a goalkeeper in soccer. I'm not putting it down, but LeBron James.
Have you seen the size of the pitch, bro?
The goalkeeper
Wait,
doesn't
pitch is soccer? Yeah.
Yeah, the pitch is fine. The goalkeeper doesn't run up and down. The goalkeeper stays between the posts.
Luke, I don't think you've watched enough soccer. Those guys can still... Sometimes they bring the goalkeeper out to defend the back when the other team's got the ball.
Okay, I'll tell you what, we should work out in an average European Cup I don't know. In an average soccer game, how many kilometres does a goalkeeper run and how many kilometres does LeBron James run in an NBA game?
We can look this up right now. Full disclosure, this is just the first thing that the AI has spat out. It may or may not be wrong. Please send us a message if you have your own calculations.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it says. A soccer goalkeeper runs about 3 to 5 kilometres per 90-minute match. In contrast, LeBron James runs an average of about 3.5 to 4 kilometres in the NBA, though his games are much shorter. Haha, you lose.
Challenge.
Dude, I could not believe how much those soccer players have to run around. I would
Not
never
the
be able to play
goalkeeper.
soccer.
Not the
goalkeepers
goalkeeper.
still run.
Not the goalkeeper.
Do
You can't compare
goalkeepers still do
the
a
athleticism
lot
of LeBron James to a soccer goalkeeper.
Oh, well,
Okay, let's see what the listeners say.
yeah, so they typically cover about 3 to 5 kilometres per match. That's still like a lot. Geez, I can't run 3 to 5 kilometres.
No,
But yeah, what
me
do the
neither.
people think? Who runs more, a goalie or a...
No, let's fine tune it. Who is more athletic? The 40-year-old goalkeeper for Cape
No,
Verde.
don't pick on Virginia.
No, they're the
Just say
same
goalkeeper
age.
in general.
No, this
Oh,
guy.
true. Okay.
They're the same age, Kelsey. This is my point.
Okay, fair.
LeBron's 41. This goalkeeper's 40. So they're about the same. Who is more athletic? The goalkeeper or LeBron James?
Oh, I don't think we say athletic. I think we say who runs more.
Athletic.
Nah, who runs more? Because, like, in a game, otherwise you're just pitting one against the other.
I am.
We're meant to be asking the scientific
I
questions
tell you
here,
now,
Luke.
LeBron James would be a better goalkeeper than old mate from Cape Verde would be a basketballer.
Oh, no, we're not friends anymore, Luke. I will not take this
Yeah, you're in
slander
love.
of Virginia. I will not take this. Okay, moving on. We got this voicemail from Jono.
Hello, Kelsey. Hello, Luke. I recommend if we have excess shark, why don't we go back to catching them and using it as a resource? If they keep it regulated so that they don't overfish the population, so they don't keep things in order, I don't see the harm in that. And then it's another product on the table. Thank you for my thoughts.
Okay. We're going to be talking to Dr. Daryl McPhee, Kelsey, who is from Bond University, and he's a world-recognised expert in sharks. And you know what? Ooh. Before he became world-recognised shark expert, he was a fisherman. And, yes, using them as a resource, back in the day, you'd order fish and chips from the fish shop and you'd get flake. And flake was shark.
Is that shark? Oh.
It was shark. But it wasn't great whites or bull sharks. It was small gummy sharks and the white tip sharks. They were the smaller sharks. No fish market in Australia will touch the larger sharks because they're too high in mercury. So
Right.
I'm just saying they're not a source of food for us. The smaller sharks certainly were, and I don't know if they still are. But wait till you hear our chat with Dr. Daryl McPhee because I'll ask him all those questions.
Okay, we got this message from Tony.
Luke, Star Wars, A New Hope is season 4, not 3. It's episode 4, 5, and 6. Get it right. Sorry, bro. I had to cut you off. Tony from Inglewood and Victoria. Love you. Love the show. Bye.
He's not the only one that has said this, Luke. I think a little while ago we got a message from someone saying the same thing. So I think you've got to listen to the people here and admit defeat.
Yeah, I got it wrong. I meant 4, 5, and 6 because there was 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, sure you did.
I meant 4, 5, and 6. Star
you
Wars,
did.
Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi were 4, 5, and 6.
Sure.
Kelsey, you're supposed to edit this bloody podcast to make me look good. See,
You think I know anything about Star Wars?
you white-handed me.
Yeah. Sucked
Yeah,
in.
I was wrong.
The people will tell you, though. The people will tell you.
They keep you honest. Or as Graham Richardson once said, the mob will always sort you out.
Yeah.
Can
All
we
right,
move
next
on?
voicemail.
Oh my God, $65,000 baby bonus. Imagine the junkies then producing children. There'd have to be a lot of rules about getting medical checks and drug-free screenings done throughout the pregnancy. That would be hideous to our society.
I think
and a lot
that's
of
a
people
fair
said the
point.
same. Yeah, and a lot of people said that a lot of people were buying cigarettes, drugs, alcohol with the $5 baby bonus introduced by Peter Costello. And 65K, imagine that. So would you quarantine the money? Do you make sure it's on a government-issued credit card where it can only be spent on baby goods?
No, I think they should do what we came up with, Luke, what you came up with, which is just invest in childcare, make childcare free, set up little villages where you've got childcare next to retirement villages.
With infant
Everyone
schools,
gets along.
infant schools,
it's free.
public schools.
You don't
and
have to
them all
worry
together.
about paying for all that stuff and you're good to go.
Good to go. Yeah, 65K, Bob Catter. It was a fascinating chat.
Yeah, he's Bob. We got this message from Steve. Steve says, just going on from what the Rev said about drive-through funerals in America.
In America, yeah.
My dad passed away last month and he had opted for a director creme funeral. We didn't even know when it was happening and got the ashes in a box in the post. I wish he had told us what he had planned, but it was all arranged by his solicitor. We were just told the arrangements had already been prepared for and paid for. I can see his point of view as he didn't want us coming back from all around the world for a funeral. But me and my brothers and sisters all feel the same. It was sudden, so just feels like it didn't happen without a funeral and not even an urn. But as the Rev said, you can get a good quality urn off Temu for $20. That's really sad.
I think it is too, but it was a fascinating chat with the Rev, wasn't it?
Yeah, geez.
But I also thought his insight into the corruption within the funeral industry.
Oh, yeah.
If we weren't talking about death, I'd say it was a real eye-opener.
Yeah, well, I found out the other day that my dad has essentially already paid for his funeral because he went in for a liver transplant and there's a really high risk of dying during that procedure.
Mortality rate is the...
Yeah, there's a really high mortality rate going in for a liver transplant. So he just signed up for this like package deal for a funeral. It kind of makes sense, like if you're going in for a surgery with a high mortality rate. But also it seems like so weird to have already sold his funeral. You know?
A lot of people do it.
I know.
A lot of people do it.
Is it normal? Is that normal? Probably.
I think it is. I think it's... let's ask the folks.
Prepaid
Have
funeral.
you
Have you prepaid for your funeral?
Oh, your mum... Yeah, I've got...
Do you reckon?
No, but she's covered.
What do you mean she's covered?
Well, in death, she gets a shitload of money.
No, I know, but like, have
Which
you already
covers my
paid
funeral.
for your funeral?
No. Just drop me in a cardboard box and put me in a Knock and Kirby's bloody incinerator.
No, I'll just throw you off the back of a cruise ship. What? No one's going to find you there. You all right?
I'm not going on a cruise.
No,
I'm
never.
not going on a cruise. Are we nearly done here?
Okay, we got this message from Brett.
Hey guys, it's Brett from Brisbane. Hey, I don't normally comment too much on political nonsense, but David Littleproud made some very interesting comments, pretty much suggesting that there is a billionaire, Gina Reinhart, trying to buy Pauline Hanson and One Nation's influence. Guys, I just want to really put down something. It's a website, www.transparency.aec.gov.au. That is where you can check all political donations. And I think Mr. Littleproud might want to disclose that there have been donations made to his party from Australian Energy Producers, ANZ Banking Group Limited, Australian Automobile Association, Australian Finance Industry, Australian Forest Products. Mate, there is a lot. And David, that little website is available to everyone. It is a government website, and I think that you should probably not be suggesting that all political parties don't have an influence over them from large political
Interesting comments.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. I will play Brett's voice message to David Littleproud next time we talk to him, and I'll see what his answer is. Why don't we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great shout out, though. The resource is right there. You can look up, I guess, any politician and put their money where the mouth is.
Let's do it. I will go straight to David Littleproud and I'll ask him.
Okay, Luke, just one more voicemail, okay?
Okay.
Hello, Kelsey, Luke, and Thomas. I've got a nomination for workplace stuff up that probably dwarfs everything else we're going to hear. Yeah, back in the day, I used to work at Hazel Power Station, and there was a unit control there that actually started Unit 7, a boiler, with no water. That's right, he cocked it. Now, a boiler sits at probably about 13, 14 stories high, just to give you an idea. It's big. I think the ones in Moyang are a lot bigger now. But It was absolutely destroyed. When you look inside a boiler access door, when you can see the upper side, the walls are actually made of tubes that hold water. Of course, they had no water, so they all buckled. Not one of them was straight anymore. They're all bent, a whole lot of it. Back in the 90s, the early 90s when this happened, it cost about $150 million.
That is a massive cock up. I wonder if it impacted like the energy grid.
What year was it? Back in the 90s.
Would you get fired over that?
Oops. I wonder. That is a massive, massive oops. If you can beat that, let us know.
There definitely came some workplace safety regulations out of that oops. I can tell you that much.
Big oops.
Big oops.
Coming up, we go to Washington and Sky News' bureau chief, Jonathan Kearsley. Is it on with Iran? Is it off? Are we getting fuel soon? And what was the go with the terrorist plot against the White House at the UFC fight? All that and more coming up. Well, for 38 times, we've been told by the US President, Donald Trump, that the peace deal with Iran was on, then off, on, then off. And finally, apparently a deal was to be signed in Switzerland this Friday, where peace in the Middle East would finally be upon us all. But it seems to be going a little bit haywire at the moment. Jonathan Kearsley is the Sky News Washington Post boss there, and in the United States, he's the bureau chief, and he's on the line again right now. Jonathan, where are we at, for goodness sake?
This is quite extraordinary. A senior White House administration official within the last short little while has released the full details of the 14-point memorandum of understanding between the United States and Iran. And what it essentially allows is for Iran to sell oil essentially once the deal is done. Now, President Trump has indicated that could be done tomorrow. He's hinted that he may well be staying in the region in Europe for that signing. It's also going to allow Iranian assets to be unfrozen. There's a $300 billion Iranian reconstruction fund to be organised by the US and international partners. They have secured, that is, Iran has secured wording that the fighting will stop on all fronts, including in Lebanon. And we've heard from President Trump a number of times today. He spoke at length at a press conference in Evian, once again criticising Israel, criticising Prime Minister Netanyahu, and suggesting that he will be prepared to bomb Iran again if there is no final deal after the 60-day deadline. You have a situation now where people may well be questioning exactly why this war with Iran was needed in the first place, because prior to this conflict, there were assets frozen. The Strait of Hormuz was open. That now is only going to be open toll-free for 60 days. Then there's the possibility, if there's no deal, well, either the war resumes or Iran can shut it again, or it can start potentially charging service fees. And you've got a situation when it comes to the nuclear aspect that what they're saying is it's just Iran reiterating it will not have a nuclear weapon. Now, that has long been its public position anyway, despite the idea of having enriched uranium. And the enriched uranium aspect of what the United States has been so concerned about, and what President Trump had as his red lines, is only going to be a discussion point now in the next phase of negotiations as they try and work towards a deal. Now, the wording in this MOU suggests that the parties want to get to a point where they can finalise a deal on the nuclear issues. But at the moment, as it stands now, there is no firm agreement on what happens with the enriched uranium from Iran. So this is, Luke, just an extraordinary situation that the United States now finds itself in.
Yeah, but you see, if you take Donald Trump at face value, he said the deal was done, thank you to Pakistan, going to be signed in Switzerland, and an arrangement, or an MOU, as you put it, a memorandum of understanding, had all been done. It was just a matter of signatures and then happy days.
But this was always going to be an interim deal. It was always going to be a deal to get towards a deal. So this is, as President Trump kept reiterating, it is a memorandum of understanding. It is not a final agreement. They want to get to a point of a final agreement. But right now, the MOU, as it stands, has in it a lot of steps where Iran could benefit financially from this. Now, the US is pointing out they'll only benefit financially if they stick to the terms of the MOU and come to a final agreement. But nonetheless, there is no firm, solid agreement on what happens with Iran's enriched uranium as this stands now. Now, obviously, that's what they want to work through over the course of the next 60 days that will start Friday. And you've got this situation now where both Iran and the United States are preparing to have their presidents, that is Donald Trump and Masoud Pezeshkian, sign this agreement in Switzerland potentially tomorrow or the day after. It may well be brought forward by 24 hours. But the criticism from some quarters has still been coming thick and fast. One of the most notable who had been concerned, Lindsey Graham, says he's spoken with Steve Witkoff and has been assured that this is the right thing for Americans, and he believes it is. The Israeli response is now going to be interesting to all of this too, because obviously they are fundamental in this and have been adamant that the agreement is not binding. So they still want to defend themselves against Hezbollah. Iran is saying if there's attacks by Israel on Hezbollah in Lebanon, the deal's off and they go back to fighting anyway. So you have to question exactly where this sits right now and who is benefiting most from it.
Because, just on a domestic level, here the Australian government, as you know, has said, all right, well, the fuel excise cut will end July 1, and we believe by then there'll be cheaper petrol in Australia because the Strait of Hormuz will be open and the blockades will all be gone, and it should kind of sort of even itself out. That's all off. That's all off the table now.
Well, look, essentially, in some ways it may not be, but the problem is that the oil that has been sold now as petrol in Australia that has been refined has been bought at a much higher price than where petrol sits now. No, than where oil sits now. The oil price has dropped significantly, down towards $70 a barrel for Brent crude, which is one of the sort of international markers of oil prices. But it's going to take some time for oil at that price to be bought, shipped out of the Middle East, refined wherever the refinery takes place, and then put into bowsers in Australia. So what you're looking at is, even though the oil price is dropping in the Middle East and it's dropping sharply, it is going to take a lot of time to filter through to people who are trying to fill up their cars or their utes or their trailers or whatever it may be over the course of the next couple of weeks.
We have to once again sit and wait. We all thought this Friday it was happy days. Listen, I'm fascinated by the Sunday UFC event at the White House, and that in fact the FBI has now uncovered that there was a plot to attack the White House. And it all came from a concerned mother who was a little bit worried about her son's behaviour. What's the latest with all of this? J.D. Vance, I saw his press conference. He seemed to be kind of downplaying it all. What's the latest?
J.D. Vance has essentially said that, look, yes, the FBI thwarted a plot to target the UFC, a plot that allegedly involved explosive drones to target high-profile individuals and the big crowds that were gathered there. And then as they fled, the alleged plot was to involve people armed with firearms storming the grounds and carrying out shootings. Now, these suspects who were arrested were not in Washington, D.C. with their guns at the time that they were detained, and J.D. Vance was at pains to point that out. But yes, it was a mother who noticed that her child was acting, or her son was acting rather strangely.
He's not a child.
Notified authorities, or a man, yes, notified that her son was acting strangely. The FBI moved in. They thwarted this plot, guns, huge amounts of ammunition seized. Now this will play out before the courts, but once again, it's another terror plot that's been foiled.
Unbelievable. I'll let you go. We'll see you on Sky News every night, live from Washington, D.C. Washington Bureau Chief Jonathan Kearsley, thank you once again for keeping us up to date.
Thanks again, Luke.
Stories and laughter that brighten my day. Got that bluesy rhythm, but it's swinging my way. Oh, I got the Luke on a blues, but they're the kind.
Well, it's been a while since we've had the Reverend Tim Costello on the podcast. As you may know, and if you don't, let me tell you, Tim Costello, AO, is an Australian Baptist minister. He was the Chief Executive Officer and Chief Advocate of World Vision Australia. And he's not an anti-gambler, but he is concerned about people being manipulated by the gambling machine. Now, I'll get him to explain that a little bit later on. But the gambling machine and the gambling addiction that can get people completely lost has come to the news again last week, when we heard that the NRL referee, Ashley Klein, has confirmed that he's battling a gambling addiction. And he has suggested that he's lost over $400,000 to gambling, which is just incredible to think about. Now, he says that his gambling was only on horses and greyhounds. He says his addiction never impacted his job. Well, let's take him at face value on that. But nearly every gambling addict I've ever met will gamble on anything and will think the next bet will get me out of trouble. It's the next one where I'll have a win. Just one more and I can get things under control. And it never gets under control. If you look at the very successful bookies, if you look at the enormous amount of revenue that online gambling organisations advertise and make, if you look at the huge clubs, the massive casinos, you don't get to be that big by losing. It's kind of common sense. Now, I'm not a gambler, but I'm not a wowser. I don't mind people having a bet on maybe the result of a sporting event or the result of a horse race. What really concerns me, folks, is exotic betting, where, and I'm not talking about results or the spread or even a trifecta, but will there be a no ball in the third over of the game between Australia and whoever? I think exotic betting definitely leads to corruption. But just let me get back to NRL referee Ashley Klein. I just think, and this is only my opinion, but at the time of recording of my chat now with the Reverend Tim Costello, Ashley Klein is still going to be allowed to referee State of Origin number 2, and he's the NRL number 1 referee. Without accusing him of betting in NRL matches, because I don't know, but to save the integrity of the NRL and even Ashley Klein, I believe they should remove him from refereeing NRL matches so that there is no scrutiny. Because the amount of pressure both the NRL and Ashley Klein are putting on themselves for every decision he makes when he blows a whistle, he's in a can't lose, can't win situation. And why would you put yourself under that amount of pressure? Unless, of course, you believe that he's only ever gambled on greyhounds and horses. But I also want to talk about the online gambling juggernaut, how the algorithms work, and how hundreds of thousands of Australians, let alone internationally, but Australians, especially with the World Cup on now, and exotic betting being allowed to happen, will there be a penalty in the first 15 minutes of the game between Italy and whoever? Exotic betting and online gambling, I have a problem with. But let's talk to someone who knows a lot more about this than I ever will, and that is the Reverend Tim Costello. He joins me again. A rather long introduction, Tim, but
no,
I just,
very good introduction. Thank you.
Let's talk firstly about referee Ashley Klein. Let's accept him at his word that he's only ever gambled on horses and greyhounds. But to be over $400,000 in debt and losing that much money, you get a gambling problem. And most people I know with a massive gambling problem, and 400K is massive, will gamble on anything, especially to try and get it back, to try and get back to even, and you become desperate. I believe for the integrity of both Ashley Klein and the NRL, he should not be refereeing any NRL matches, but maybe I'm completely wrong. Your thoughts on this first?
Yeah, no, I think you've analysed it brilliantly. So, 2 specific comments about Ashley Klein. Saying, and I believe him, that I've only lost that $400,000 on horses and greyhounds, is a bit like saying, because gambling is an addiction like drugs and alcohol, I only have a problem with Jim Beam. I don't have a problem with any other alcohol. Or I only have a problem with Peter Stuyvesant cigarettes if I'm a smoker. It's the same addiction, profoundly the same addiction, which goes to your main point. Your point is, yep, we accept at face value he's only gambled on horses and greyhounds. But the very nature of being a referee, where there is so much easy money to be made by a referee decision and you're in trouble, that is totally unlike smoking and drinking addictions. Smoking and drinking addictions, there is not easy money to be made on whether the referee, say it's Ashley Klein, is a smoker or is a drinker. They aren't inherent to the job that he's doing. He can have a smoking or drinking addiction and be a fantastic referee. Nothing rides on it. Unfortunately, everything rides on being an NRL referee and the massive amounts of easy money to be made. That's a profound difference in the addictions.
And it leaves you open to corruption. Can I give you an example? You might remember the famous or infamous NBA referee, Tim Donaghy. Now, Tim Donaghy was a professional NBA referee for 13 years. And back in 2007, Tim, he pleaded guilty to federal charges. He admitted that he bet on games he officiated, and he provided inside information to bookmakers and gamblers. The scandal, the NBA is still reeling from this scandal. He had developed a gambling addiction, and because of his position as an NBA referee, he was approached by a criminal element saying, we can help you get out of this trouble, this enormous amount of debt that you owe us and other bookmakers, you do us a favour. And games were rigged. He made calls that changed the outcome of games, but most importantly, well, maybe not, but also interestingly, he made calls that helped the exotic betting industry. It took the world by storm. So what do you make of that?
What I make of that is that when effectively the gambling industry, and when we talk in NRL and AFL in Australia, each getting now $50 million from the gambling industry for their codes, the effect has been our much beloved sports, AFL, NRL, you know, the kids' heroes when they watch, has been the Trojan horse for the massive expansion of profits of foreign multinational online bookies, Sportsbet, Bet365. They literally have taken over our sport. So when I talk about so much easy money to be made on a referee's decision like Ashley Klein, I am talking easy money. I'm talking if you have an addiction. Anyone who has an addiction knows that they get exposed potentially because of debts to criminals who can take advantage and leverage that. That goes with addiction. It's why addiction and crime, sadly, always go together. The person who's an addict has a health issue, but with gambling, so much easy money to be made, taken over by Sportsbet. One example. Sportsbet takes $2.2 billion a year out of Australia without one shop or outlet. They have 1,500 employees. Why do they have 1,500 employees? Because they're tracking every bet. They don't need 1,500 for marketing, running a shop or an outlet. No, unlike TAB, they're watching every bet. If you're winning, they slow you down. If you keep winning, they stop you. If you're losing, they give you free money.
Free money. Free money.
A bonus bet, a matching bet.
Here's $500 of credit for you to bet on this weekend. I just want to draw your attention to something that I could not believe. It was across on the Channel 9 Today Show to the United States of America in the lead up to the World Cup. And they had an Australian soccer legend as an interview, subject to an interview, an expert in the World Cup and Australia. There was John Aloisi in a sports bet shirt, and behind him, a huge blow-up balloon type thing, like a statue. It kind of looked like the Statue of Liberty, but it was John Aloisi wearing a sports bet jumper. Channel 9 only asked one question pertaining to Australia's chances in the World Cup. The rest was about Sportsbet. And in fact, the co-host, Tim, said, because of course it was John Aloisi's famous left foot kick that got Australia into the World Cup, and took his shirt off and waved it in the air. And they said, perhaps you could take your shirt off and wave it in the air and replicate what you did all those years ago. He said, no, I've been told I can't take my shirt off. I've been told I can't take my shirt off. It was a Sportsbet shirt. That was in breakfast television, a so-called interview with an Australian soccer legend to talk about Australia's chances in the World Cup. And it was all about Sportsbet.
I made comments about that.
Did you see that? Did you see that?
I saw it, and I made comments that ran on Media Watch, who were absolutely scathing of Channel 9. My comments were, it's as shameless as if tobacco still sponsors sport, and you had John Aloisi recommending in a T-shirt Marlboro cigarettes. It's the cigarettes, tobacco, which one sponsors sport, is legal. It's adult. People are allowed to smoke. I absolutely defend the right of people to gamble, but you don't allow tobacco or another adult product, gambling, to literally take over your sports, your heroes. That was absolutely shameless and shocking. And I'm very critical of the media.
It was on breakfast television where kids are watching. Yeah, it was absolutely shameless, wasn't it?
Totally.
So Sportsbet, which is online gambling. Now, you said something a second ago, and I took a little note. There is an algorithm. And if you're winning, they slow it down and they can even shut you out. But if you're losing, they're all over you like white on rice. Explain what you mean.
So this came out in the Murphy inquiry, and Peter Murphy, who lost a battle with cancer, was the Labor chair of an inquiry that was multi-partisan. Libs, Nationals, Greens, Independents, Labor. Those federal MPs grilled the CEOs of the sports bet and other betting companies. And in the evidence, when asked the question, why so many employees when you don't even have a shop or an outlet? And how much does it take for employees to run marketing? It came out, they have these employees to track every bet. Further questioning from the Murphy inquiry, why? Do you, if someone's losing, give them free money? They, on oath, were forced to answer yes. Do you, if someone's winning, slow them down? On oath, they were forced to answer yes. So we know this is the tactics. We know
So
it's not even...
So they've admitted when a client is winning, we slow them down. But if they're losing, we push them forward.
Exactly. They're called inducements. So the Murphy report recommended not only a ban on gambling advertising and a national regulator, but a ban on inducements. Inducements are straight as an SMS to your phone when you're gambling, $100 free money. Inducements are evil. They're immoral. You are in the grip of chasing your losses, almost certainly doing harm to your family, and the harm is extraordinary. 3 times more domestic violence where there's gambling in a family, far more crime, far more suicides, far more kids going hungry. The harm is incredible. These inducements are immoral. That's what they do. Straight to your text if you're losing.
I want to tell you a quick story, and it's the saddest story. And also, sadly, I've lost touch with this person because he went into hiding. Many years ago, I lived in Bathurst. And there was a bloke, and I was very good friends with him. I thought I knew this bloke and his partner. We went to barbecues at each other's houses. We went out to dinner. And he was also a client of the radio station because he was a partner in the Harvey Norman. I had no idea, absolutely, Tim, no idea this guy had a problem. And I'm talking massive. Now, we're going back now to the early 1990s. Jerry Harvey got wind that something wasn't quite right. So Jerry sent this particular person to another store in regional New South Wales and got the franchise owner of that store to come to Bathurst. They'd recently done a stock take, and they went to the warehouse and they counted boxes, and it all seemed okay. Tim, the boxes were empty, and he was selling TVs and electrical equipment for cash. But the boxes in the warehouse, do you know how? Anyway, he disappeared, and I've lost track of him. I was told, and this is going back to early 1990s, that this bloke, through gambling almost exclusively on poker machines, but there must have been another outlet, but there was no online betting back then. There was no internet, Tim.
No, pre that, yep.
But I know he played pokies, about $850,000.
Wow.
And I don't know where he is today.
Yeah.
My God. And we were mates, Tim.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing that gets me is when you're playing poker machines, you're in a club and other people can see you. Online betting you can do in your bedroom. You can do in the privacy of your own home. And it's maybe a bit easier to keep a secret. Yeah. But the point I'm trying to make is here's a guy that I thought I really knew and I didn't know him.
So if he had been a smoker, you, Jerry Harvey, would have known. If he'd been a drinker, you, others would know. This is what is so profoundly insidious about gambling addiction and why it's now the major health issue in Australia. Because we have the greatest gambling losses, the greatest harm. Nobody knows. You can hide it. You know, responsible service of alcohol, there is intervention in a pub where you're playing the pokies if you're drunk. But if you're not drunk, if you've just got a gambling issue, there's no responsible intervention, even though you've been sitting there 7 hours. And doing, as your friend did, $850,000. You now translate that to a gambling machine in your pocket called a smartphone. You can literally lose your home without leaving it. Nobody has any visibility on it. This is why these foreign multinationals, Sports Bet is an Irish company, Bet365 English, this is why they're making such obscene profits.
Yeah.
This is total accessibility. With Pokies, we said limit the hours. And, how do you limit the hours when your betting machine has a smartphone in your pocket? That's the mess we're in.
I wanted to talk to you about poker machines. Once again, I'm not a gambler, but I haven't got a problem with someone having a bet on the outcome of a game or even the spread. I have a problem with exotic betting, but I also have never understood the thrill of a poker machine. Now, the poker machine and the club industry of Australia will tell you that they're a necessity, that the poker machines generate much needed revenue to put back into society, sponsoring clubs, sponsoring sporting clubs, and the money goes back into the community. And the government will tell you that revenue helps pay for much needed infrastructure. I was just looking at some figures, Reverend Tim Costello. Last year, in just New South Wales, poker machine revenue generated roughly $5.26 billion in revenue. Now, anyone with any common sense can tell you poker machines, you don't win. And they kind of lure you along. And I've looked at people who spend all day in poker machine, what do they call them? Dens? It's very sad. It's a very antisocial thing. Can we do without that revenue when the clubs will tell you that because of that revenue, they're able to build better clubs, accommodate more people in the community, and spend that money on local charities and sporting clubs?
We can absolutely do without that revenue for a start. If you look at the community benefit, it's less than 2% of that revenue that they're bringing in, which is why, as a not-for-profit, these clubs are paying their CEOs more than the Prime Minister. They're spending monies on themselves, indoor rainforests and in gold tap bathrooms, and it is a complete rort. How do we know we can do without it? Western Australia. Western Australia has never had pokies outside Burswood Casino. And I don't have a problem with pokies in a casino. In most parts of the world, that's where pokies belong. That's destination gambling. You plan to get to a casino. You plan a night out on your drinks, food. You got to get home. Because we have 75% of the world's pokies in pubs and clubs, most pokies in the rest of the world are in casinos. We've got them on every fifth block. You weren't planning to gamble. You were planning to shop. You've got another half an hour on your meter. There's always a pokies venue open. Unlike a casino where you plan and think, and this has utter accessibility. Western Australia has less than a tenth of the gambling problems of the eastern states with no pokies. Western Australia has higher levels of sport and recreation participation than the eastern states. This notion that junior sport all collapses but for the pokies is a complete lie. Western Australia is the proof in the Australian system that this notion of junior sport will wither. No, it's actually far more vital and energised in Western Australia with no pokies, with the money not coming. A funny story, years ago, the Premier Court, Richard Court, of Western Australia, got me into a dress cabinet. Because there was a push by the pokies industry from the hotels there in Western Australia and eastern states to allow Western Australia to have pokies. I addressed his cabinet. We walked out, he put his arm around me, he said, "There, thanks, Tim, we're not going to get pokies here, I want to assure you." I said, "Oh, good. My arguments convinced you?" He said, "Well, yeah, they were good, but I have been a sailor all my life," Richard Court.
Yes.
I would go to Sydney to compete in regattas.
Right.
He said the yacht clubs always had incredible bistros and bars and facilities, thanks to the pokies. But I noticed, Tim, they had lousy boats. The money wasn't getting to the sport. We always thrashed them. He said, "I don't believe that from my own experience as a sailor, yachtsman, that the money even gets anywhere near it. Now, I thought that's interesting. He was a premier, listening to my arguments, but he had personal experience. This is a rort. Western Australia still doesn't have any pokies outside Burswood Casino. That's why they have less crime, less addiction, and higher levels of community participation in sport and other community projects.
So what is the Tim Costello solution? Because Aussies love a bet, but more Aussies are losing than winning, obviously. So what's the solution? We don't want to live in a dictatorship where people already feel they're living in a nanny state where you can't do this and you can't do that. You can't take your dog off a lead here. You can't fly a kite in that park. Yeah, people hate being told no. So what's the solution?
Well, the solution is what 2 Productivity Commission inquiries into gambling, 1999 and 2010, recommended, that you have what's called a cashless card to play the pokies. And a cashless card gives you absolutely the right to play the pokies as much as you like. But beforehand, you have a card which you set your limits on how much you're prepared to lose that time. You set them. Nobody else. No invasion of privacy. You set your limits then on how long you'll be locked out of playing once you're way over your losses. You set it. Nobody else. The cashless card has been running in Norway and European nations since 2017. People have the right to gamble, but before they're in front of that hypnotizing machine with the noise, the jingles, the dopamine, the features.
They're called features. Bidding, 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 even when you don't win anything.
Yeah, even when you don't win. That's designed by the most brilliant psychologists to actually release dopamine that hits the pleasure center of the brain with the force, really, of crack cocaine. It is a high.
Really?
That dopamine.
Really?
It is a high. We now have had MRIs analyze people's brains,
right,
as they have been anticipating playing, and we see the dopamine release. We know it is profound. That's what's going on. That's why it's an addiction. Before you're in front of that machine, the Productivity Commission into Gambling, 2 of them in Australia, said the cashless card. Dom Perrottet at the last election, though he lost it, was going to introduce that. Mins and Labor are very tied up with the pokies industry. Labor is the only party in the Western world that has pokies gambling interests. The Randwick Labor Club, they have to $120 million worth of gambling assets. So nothing has happened with the cashless card. That's the answer when it comes to pokies. Absolutely free to play. And by the way, Crown Casino's 3,000 pokies now has the cashless card. They were forced to do it because of the Royal Commission into Crown. Crown's 3,000 pokies are down about 25%, which is a good thing. It's a good thing because people are setting their own limits, yet they're still free to play. When it comes to sports betting, online betting, the answer is what the Murphy report recommended. Phased in ban on gambling ads. Not a ban on gambling, on the ads.
What about the argument? What about the argument? Oh, they always have a disclaimer at the end. Chances are you're going to lose, or how much are you really losing, or if you've got a problem, bring this.
Window dressing, cosmetic window dressing.
Medical authorities warned that smoking is a health hazard. Remember, they used to do that.
Yeah.
And they have warnings. And they have warnings on the cigarette packets. Have those warnings on the cigarette packets had any impact at all on the sale of legal cigarettes?
No. And what we know is that with cigarette, you had to move to plain packaging. You had to actually get tobacco out of sponsoring sport and grooming the next generation. See, with the sports betting companies, 80% of 10-year-olds know the logos, know the odds, know which sports betting company jingle they prefer. 80% of 10-year-olds once knew that with Marlboro cigarettes or Peter Stuyvesant or Benson and Hedges, and we said that's wrong. The Murphy report said multi-partisan, unanimous report, all parties said ban the gambling ads, phase that in over 3 years. The Murphy report said compensate AFL and NRL with a 1% levy on the sports betting companies. These sports betting companies are registered in the Northern Territory. Why in the Northern Territory? Because they're paying no tax.
Is that true? Is that right? Explain that.
So to get a license in the Northern Territory, government, well, don't get me going on the Northern Territory government, but it's basically like a local...
Tim, get it off your chest. Educate us. Why are all these sports bet agencies registered in the Northern Territory?
Because the Northern Territory has virtually no regulation at all, and insisted on virtually no tax when they handed out licenses to the sports betting companies who set up their headquarters in the Northern Territory, who then were, because they're registered, they're allowed to launch the tsunami of gambling ads on the rest of the nation. The only regulator we have for online betting at the moment is, wait for it, the Northern Territory Racing and Wagering Commission. 6 part-time commissioners, who many of them who come from the racing industry, own racehorses, had not till they were embarrassed by Four Corners last year, even produced a report for 31 years. The whole thing is a complete farce. 1% levy on the sports betting companies, one, to pay some tax, the Murphy report said, and to compensate AFL and NRL, and to actually stop the inducements. At sports betting level, we know the answer. That's what the answer is. But and the public want it. This is what's amazing. The last poll showed 77% of the public wanted a gambling ad ban. Now, normally you go, well, in a democracy, politicians will wet their finger, put it up to the wind, say, there go the people, I must follow them, I am their leader.
Yeah.
Why hasn't it happened when 77% of the public want a ban on gambling ads? Because of the big, powerful vested interests, the sports betting companies and their donations to both sides of politics.
Donations to politics. Do you know, because there's a poll out today that shows Pauline Hanson has even moved further ahead as preferred Prime Minister. Do you know what One Nation's stance on all of this is?
I don't, and I've set up a call with James Ashby.
Yes.
So I'm going to find out. But look, I think One Nation supporters who are rightly angry about elites and foreign multinationals, I think when they understand we are being fleeced and our beloved sports have become the vehicle for foreign multinational sports betting profits, I think One Nation supporters would go, well, that's wrong. We'll support what the Murphy report recommended.
Yeah, all right. It's interesting, isn't it? Once again, I haven't got a problem with someone having a bet on the result of a sporting event or on a horse or a greyhound or whatever. I do have, as I've said, a massive problem with exotic gambling, like micro betting.
Yeah.
Wagering on the result of what will happen on a particular ball in a particular over. Will there be a penalty against this football team in the first half? And that to me leads to corruption. How do you police exotic betting?
Well, the truth is you've got to have a national regulator. Australia does not have a national regulator. The Albanese government's half-hearted response to the Murphy report, where they'll limit the number of ads from 8 an hour down to 3 an hour, does not address a national regulator. That's why the Northern Territory Racing and Wagering Commission is still the de facto national regulator for all of Australia. You cannot get rid of these things until you have a national regulator, because the industry doing exotic betting is so able to carve up state territory regulations because there is no national coherent regulator actually enforcing it. That's what's going on.
What do you make of multis? Because this was all new to me. And there was a bloke on a radio station I worked at. He worked on one station. I worked on the other one, but we were both owned by the same people. And he used to have this segment, and it was about his multis. And he had a number of sports and a number of bets that he made, and over a number of results. That was his multi. Now, what is a multi? And I mean, to place a bet on a team, say at $2, you combine it with a bet on Team B at $3, then you multiply the odds, your odds become $6, and then you can bet on basketball, cricket, this horse, that NRL game, and that cricket match. Are multis dangerous? Because I noticed on a sports bet ad on an app ad, they kept talking about get on board with your multi. So explain that.
Yeah. So, and we have a AFL show called The Front Bench with Mick Malloy, and he does mixed
Front
multis.
bar.
Front bar, not bench, front bar.
Yeah.
He does his multis Look, the multis work psychologically like this, though the odds become vanishingly impossible to win, you see a much bigger prize. Psychologically, you go, wow, I will bet on that because the payout is so much better. The odds become vanishingly small because to actually line up 3 wins, often in different sports, is completely an impossible bet. But the human brain is wired not for maths, not for rationality, but for hope. And the human brain sees multis as the hope deliverer. It looks like gold. It's fool's gold, Luke. Utter fool's gold, a multi.
Just to finish off a game with Ashley Klein, and I am not making any disparaging remarks on what he does and doesn't do with his gambling. He's admitted 400,000, maybe more. He's admitted he's got a problem. But when you have a referee with a massive gambling problem, should they be still held in that position as in control of a football match?
The answer is no. So in the AFL, there was an AFL umpire, Nick Flood, who paid a penalty against Zach Butters, the captain of Port Adelaide. This AFL umpire is employed also by Sportsbet to give horse racing tips. Zach Butters, the captain of Port Adelaide, said, "Who's paying you?" Over the fee he had awarded. Zach Butters was then penalised for abusing an umpire. It then became exactly this issue. Well, surely an AFL umpire, though he is employed by Sportsbet on a different gambling app, horse racing, is at risk. The AFL, now this is one of the greater shameful acts of the AFL. The AFL went silent, but very quietly, Sportsbet terminated this umpire's contract on giving tips on horse racing.
Yeah.
What we know, behind closed doors, because the AFL did not want to look like their fingers were dirty, they said to Sportsbet, fix it, you take the blame, you terminate him. Why? Because the AFL knew exactly the Ashley Klein issue. No fan would ever trust this umpire while he's still paid by Sportsbet for giving horse racing tips in any decision he made.
Yeah. The thing about Ashley Klein, once again, I don't know him, and let's assume that he has only gambled on horses and greyhounds and that he's got everything under control and he feels contrite. The only problem is he is putting extra pressure on himself. The NRL is putting massive pressure on that organisation, and the integrity of both are under enormous pressure because of this. And you go back to State of Origin 1 where Ashley Klein sent Kalen Ponga off. On replay after replay after replay, what he actually did was, sure, a penalty. Maybe
not a send-off.
Maybe at a stretch, a sin bin, but no one, not one commentator, not one fan can look at it and go, send-off, red card? And if it was that bad, warranting a send-off, how come there was no suspension? It was just wiped. So let's assume that Ashley Klein, in his heart of hearts, believed what Kalen Ponga had done deserved and warranted a send-off. Fine. But now decisions, every decision when he's got a whistle in his mouth is going to be under an enormous microscope. And does Ashley Klein and the NRL need that?
That fundamentally cuts through this dirty little secret. The dirty little secret is the AFL and NRL have become utterly dependent on sports betting companies. Once upon a time, kids would not be ever exposed to gambling because gambling existed for greyhounds, for horse racing. Kids weren't interested in it. When it comes to NRL and AFL, that's kids' heroes. Now every kid can't think of watching a game, even at the age of 13 or 14, without talking about their multi. That's how they talk, and about the odds. This dirty little secret is out, and Ashley Klein is absolutely at the cutting edge of that, as was the AFL umpire employed by Sportsbet. We have to break the link between our magnificent sports and the betting companies. It's that simple, Luke. We have to recover our trust by actually breaking this link.
Reverend Tim Costello, always good to talk to you. I'm looking forward to what my listeners have to say and their feedback because they're brutally honest. Once again, let me stress, I've known you for a long time. You are not anti-gambling.
No, I'm not.
You're not anti-gambling. Neither am I. I'm lucky. Gambling is probably the only vice I don't have, so I'm lucky there.
You don't have to confess to me, Luke.
Yeah.
Good on you.
Does the Baptist Church hold confessions?
No. Well, they're not confessionals like the Catholics, but I say that in jest. All of us are fragile humans trying to get by. I have vices, you have vices. We don't judge each other. What we're talking about here is not a person gambling. We're talking about an industry that has got its vice-like grip into our kids and their imagination, into referees and umpires in AFL. That's the issue we're talking about.
Last thing, Reverend Tim, last thing. There are innocent-looking games that kids can play on their computers or their PlayStation or whatever. I think PlayStation's old hat now. I shouldn't have said that. But on their computers. And when you play these games, you get to another level, you get rewards, and it lights up and it gives you, similar to a feature on a poker machine. There are some games where you can, if you use mum or dad's credit card, you can go online and buy yourself to the next level. These games that reward with whiz-bang sound effects as you progress up and up and up the difficulty of the game, and these are games aimed at kids, is that a form of gambling where you get rewarded, even if it's not in a monetary sense? Do you think that these games that kids play innocently online are a form of gambling as well?
The link between kids' games and the gambling industry is being exposed. The same sorts of psychologists who are employed paid fantastic amounts of money. With kids' games, it was called loot boxes, where you are winning certain prizes, forming in a young person before they're an adult, the risk and reward instincts, the adrenaline, the dopamine, in kids' games. The links between the two have been shown up and exposed.
All right. Once again, I'd love to know what our listeners think. Reverend Tim Costello, always interesting. You've given us something to think about, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
It's been a delight. All the best, Luke.
But you legends stick around through Luke's chilly meltdowns and his bulletproof head sound. Rod's yelling about green reflectors, Bill's digging up the dead.
Well, for our members only on our Luke Boner Radio Guy Facebook page, I had one or two things to say this week about Kyle Sandilands and the settlement with ARN. If you missed it, you've got to go to our members page and join up because we'd love to have you as part of our Facebook family. But basically, I said, I'm really sad. The reason I'm sad it's all settled is because there are two parts to me. One, the radio animal that I am, 48 years in commercial radio, and I've seen things happen. And I've been behind the microphone, and I've also been involved in management. And I know the gentle way you've got to tiptoe through staff complaints, HR, which HR wasn't around when I first started in radio. But, you know, if you had a complaint about someone's behaviour, you had to take it very, very seriously. And then the voyeur and me, the radio guy, I kind of wanted to get inside the courtroom where witnesses were under oath so that we could see exactly what had happened behind the scenes. And that's just me. So I'm kind of sad they settled, but I think both management of ARN and Kyle have saved themselves millions of dollars in legal fees by coming to an arrangement. And at this stage, I understand it's about a $12 million deal with a bit of contra, which gets it close to $15 million. And now, unbelievably, Kyle is kind of in the same camp as ARN now. Well, they'll swap a bit of advertising, a bit of contra will go on. And so now you've got these, you had three parties, ARN and their lawyers, Kyle, and Jackie O. Well, now Kyle and ARN are kind of over here and Jackie O's over here. So now she's kind of facing two of them in a bizarre way. And her case is ongoing at the recording of today's podcast. Look, I wanted to talk to a great friend of ours, is Rob McKnight from Rob McKnight Tonight, and his podcast, which is going absolute gangbusters. And he joins me now. Brother, you can see where I'm coming from, can't you?
Oh, yeah. Nobody wanted this story to end. It's bloody brilliant.
We thought 3 years, millions of dollars, people subpoenaed, people under oath, and now they've settled and done the mature, correct thing. How bloody civilised.
Well, I think this is a huge win for ARN. I don't think Carl's the winner here. People will look at me and say, he got $12 million, Rob. Yeah, but he was on a $100 million contract over 10 years. Now,
I think that was unsustainable. They would have had to have pulled the plug on that. They were.
But that's not his fault.
No, it's not.
ARN did a deal that wasn't ultimately good for the company. That is not Carl's fault. That is not Jackie O's fault. Now, if they want to get out of that, that's fine, but there are consequences for that.
Yeah.
Having said that, ARN have played a blinder. So, yes, they're giving Carl a bit over $12 million. They'll pay that monthly over 3 years. And you said it. They are going to provide Kyle with advertising services on ARN's partner platforms for $1.5 million over the next 3 years. But the key thing here is that when he launches a company, he cannot go and work for a rival radio station for, I think it's something like 9 months. Yeah, 9 months.
Non-compete. It's a non-compete clause. When that happens.
That's right.
Yeah.
But he can start a streaming company.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But ARN get 19% of the profits. So not only has ARN reduced this burden? It was a burden.
Massive burden.
$100 million contract. They've got that down to $12 million. Okay, they're offering $1.5 million in contra, but that's fake money in a way because they're not charging anything. They'll do it as bonus spots. And then they get 19.9% of Carl's business profits. Sorry, how has ARN lost here? It's a win-win for ARN.
Yeah, maybe Carl thinks the whole $100 million thing was going to end in tears. Because just remember, and you can elaborate on this, but in the last GFK Radio Metro survey, Kiss FM's breakfast show was plummeting in the ratings. But before, when Kyle was there, sure, they were rating well, but they were hemorrhaging revenue. Major sponsors leaving because of those mad effing witches. He may have had good ratings in Sydney, dreadful in Melbourne. They never even tried in Brisbane, which was the whole premise of the Kyle.
Well, they should have gone to Brisbane first, because he has a connection with Brisbane and Melbourne. I mean, I'm on the record as saying I don't know how this will work, but I did caveat by saying if anyone can make it work, it's Carl and Jackie O. But they didn't put the time and effort into making Melbourne work. And I'll give you another story. An executive at Channel 10, when they were launching I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, they said, we're not going to do what the UK is doing now because it's too much for Australian viewers. We're going to go back to their early seasons and copy that format and take viewers on the journey, because you can't just go in with a new show that's had 20 years of establishment and expect viewers to catch up. The same thing applies to Kyle and Jackie O. They had 20 years of pushing the boundaries of Sydney viewers becoming used to their brand of humour. And it was like the listeners in Melbourne were just shell-shocked, and they didn't really focus on, they just said,
Different
well,
culture.
Melbourne, you have to take it as it is.
Melbourne's a completely different culture.
It is.
But Brisbane is kind of similar to Sydney. Maybe it's rugby league. I don't know. But
I think it is. I think Brisbane is more aligned. Carl has a history in Brisbane, but also Melbourne is very parochial and does not like the idea of a Sydney show being beamed into their market. In Sydney, not so much of an issue. Christian O'Connell can do well based on being a good show, but Sydney not overly caring about Melbourne show coming into Sydney, but the other way won't have it. So you've got that as far as the ratings go. Kiss has dropped since Kyle and Jackie O left, but not as bad as I thought. You got to remember, when Kyle and Jackie O left Today FM, the show the breakfast slot went from number 1 down to in the 3s and has never regained. The biggest change here is that Kyle and Jackie O haven't gone somewhere else. There's obviously not much drawing the listeners of Sydney in. In fact, the Cume audience in the last ratings survey, it was down, I think, I'm pulling numbers out, it was like 132,000. I've got two figures in my head, 87,000 or 132,000. Let's take the lower number. 87,000 listeners have just left radio. So they haven't gone to other stations there. They've literally just pulled out of the radio altogether.
Is live radio, news radio is different because I think when there's breaking news, no one does it better than talk.
Absolutely.
But do you think live radio is becoming more and more irrelevant because everyone can, through podcasting and streaming, can listen to what they want exactly when they want?
It's all about content and it's all about connection. Now, there's a routine. If you're on the radio and you've got a show people like, there's that, well, you guys in the industry call them P1s, the people that turn up each and every day, they're loyal as, and that's building a connection. With your show, you will have people that come in and out, but you've got a group of people that listen every day. I have the same thing with McKnight Tonight. There is a core audience who are there every day, who want to take part in the conversation, and others that like the show, but they come in and out because they're doing their other things. So it all comes down to the content. So no, I don't think radio has lost its place. I think it all comes down to what shows. I think it needs to evolve. We're seeing, look at what you're doing, look at what I'm doing. Video podcasting, it's one of the biggest things on YouTube now. Now, radio needs to catch up to that and provide a video version of what they're doing on the radio. But there is more that they can do, and it's about that connection. So I think it becomes less about the music. If I just want music, I'll go to Spotify. I think it's about these conversations and a connection. And this is why a lot of TV people, there's been a big discussion about whether TV people work on radio. TV people don't overly give of themselves to the platform. They don't tell those personal stories. So there is a block there. People like yourself who've worked in radio know it's all about that intimate connection and telling stories about yourself.
I think also radio execs who are now bean counters forget that radio is a craft. And, you do reasonably well on a reality TV show. They'll give you breakfast on 700,000 a year. It really shits me. Really, really shits me. However, I'll move on.
Well, you know what it is? They always have this idea that, they're an Instagram influencer. They've got 1 million followers. I can tell you, when I was producing Studio 10, people used to say to me all the time, this person's got 1 million followers. Let's get them on the show. And at first you go, yeah, that makes sense. And I tried it a few times, never changed the ratings because it's great content for that influencer because they'll clip it up, they'll put it on their feed and it gives them credibility and validation. But their fans aren't coming to watch the whole thing on the show.
Because I worked in the Southern Cross Stereo building for nearly a decade. You remember that? So I saw a lot of people come and go, especially upstairs at Today FM.
There were a lot of breakfast shows.
Oh my God, the carpet between Studio 1 and the elevator was worn. Can I just? I remember when Rove took over from. Anyway, anyway.
No, but there's a TV person. I'm not canning Rove, but. I don't remember Rove talking personally. He was a TV presenter. He presents, he makes some jokes and it's that intimacy.
And
look at yourself.
Yeah, and his sidekick, where the bloody hell are you? It was just appalling. I hate people who use radio as a stepping stone. I hate it. I hate it because I'm wireless. You get me.
I do. But look, here's my thing. I was in television for 30 years and then took an opportunity to do radio at 4BC and I fell in love with the medium. And when I got to be a fill-in presenter at 4BC, my gosh, I love television, but I found a new love in radio. That intimacy, being able to talk. Television is a big production where it takes a lot of people and roles are different. As an executive producer in television, I had a lot of power. In radio, it's the presenter that has the power. And there's a reason for that because it's all about the presenter and how they connect with the audience. And when I was sitting behind the microphone, filling in, I loved that. I loved that connection with the audience. I say something, they call in, they give me their feedback. And I just think there's a beauty to radio that a lot of people don't get. But for me, it's a new love.
I couldn't agree with you more. Welcome to my world. A little late.
By the way, I still have a thing for TV, so,
Well, Channel 7 Sunrise keep inviting me back and I have no idea why. There's an old saying, radio getting ugly men laid since the 1920s. You can use that.
What made you think of that while looking at me?
No, I was looking at me. Hey, listen, so speaking of streaming and people getting away from radio or TV and discovering what you and I do, what's the latest with Carl Stefanovic?
Well, it's interesting because he's now got a chief chaos reporter. He has just passed 100,000 subscribers. And look, Carl's an interesting one because he has certainly made the jump to streaming spectacularly. He has used his fame to be able to do that. When he announced it, it was reported everywhere because they love stories about Carl. They get clicks.
And his contact book's pretty good.
His contact book is pretty good. The one thing I would say about what Carl's doing is get all these right-wing people on. No dramas. Like talk to whoever you want. He's just got to push back more. He fawns a lot. I think he's still trying to find his voice in this space. Hey, who am I to tell him? He's got more listeners and more followers and more subscribers than me. But as someone who looks at this industry, my advice will be, I think we need a little bit of the Carl that pushes back in interviews. You can be chummy with them. You can, see their point of view, but it's okay to push back occasionally too. And he can do that. We see him do that on the Today Show. The other interesting thing is all this commentary from people within Nine saying they're really pissed off with Carl because he's doing this. The thing is, he went to Channel 9. They only extended his contract by 1 year. He said, okay, if you're going to do that, allow me to go and do a podcast and a video cast and create my own thing. They went, okay. And so he's doing what they've allowed him to do. They probably didn't see how seriously he would take that and how big it would become. But for the people at Nine to be whinging about it, give me a break.
Give me a break. And so that's Carl. We'll go from Carl to Kyle, back to Kyle, just to bookend it. So Kyle will now be producing a streaming service. You and I kind of predicted when all this happened, I think it was February 20. Do you think that he'll do like a Howard Stern podcast, not have to answer to ACMA, not give a rat's about the mad effing witches? Is that the kind of thing he's going to do?
Yeah, I have a feeling in his heart of hearts he'd still like to be on broadcast radio.
Yeah.
But I think this will be the next best option and he can be the master of his own domain. The interesting thing will be how big he takes it. Will he try to do it on the cheap? He'll need investors if he wants to build up a paid subscription website because there's a lot of infrastructure that goes into that. It's not just doing it as far as what we do. We can do we've done our setups, and because we stream out on YouTube and podcasting and things like that, it's an easier proposition than if you're trying to build a website that does the paid subscription service. So it's going to be interesting how far he takes it.
One last thing, I was interested to watch Pauline Hanson's address at the National Press Club in Canberra this week. She launched into a lot of things, but one of her pet hates is the ABC, and she wants to defund it. She thinks way too much money is spent on it, and maybe people should be able to subscribe to it if they want to watch it. What do you make of all of that?
Yeah, look, there's a couple of things, and she also wants to get rid of SBS, and I thought out loud on McKnight Tonight last night, and SBS, I can actually see what she's saying. Is it still fit for purpose? It's sort of become a general entertainment channel now. Yes, it might show some foreign language news services, but you can get all that on the net. When it first started, it was offering immigrants and multicultural Australians the opportunity to basically be connected to their homes, but also use that service to integrate into Australian culture. The problem is it's not overly needed anymore. Anything, if you want to watch a film in Greek, you can go to Netflix and choose the Greek audio channel, or you can actually get streaming services that will serve up Greek programming or Italian or whatever. So I think she may have a point on that one. The ABC is a little bit more problematic. There are so many problems with the ABC. That is absolutely true. But she was very clear that she would keep the ABC to serve the regions where there aren't commercial networks, but in the cities it would be a different proposition. How you split that apart would be a really big challenge, but I do think it's a much needed shake-up, and it's certainly, I can imagine, got a lot of people at the ABC worried because we've seen from all the polling that she could actually form government. So I think it's very interesting. And on TV Black Box today, I am putting up a story about the missing 38 seconds that was cut from the ABC feed of Pauline Hanson's speech. Even though they provided a pool feed to everyone,
yeah,
for some reason,
yeah,
38 seconds. There's a 38-second time jump in the ABC feed that was not experienced on Sky News. I do a side-by-side comparison, and the ABC have given me a statement saying it wasn't on delay, because I thought, well, maybe they thought there might be controversy. It was on delay. It's like, you know, when you're on YouTube or your DVR and you're watching behind and then you skip to the live point. It was like that.
Yeah.
It was exactly like that. And I show a comparison of how the ABC jumps. Sky News plays an additional 38 seconds before at the point the ABC feed jumped to. She even has time to take off her glasses and put them back on. It wasn't censored because there was nothing controversial, but I wondered whether the ABC did delay it, fearing controversy or whatever statements. They're denying that, but the evidence is there.
Wow.
They time jumped 38 seconds. There's something going on here.
The ABC and the missing 38 seconds.
You can't get it past McKnight.
Rod McKnight, you will be like a dog with a bone with this, and I want answers on Rob McKnight tonight. I've got an SBS story for you. I'll tell you. Yeah. Did you know I was offered a Tonight Show on SBS? 2013, I think it was, 2013. And me and the bloke who was managing me at the time, we went into SBS, had 2 meetings with 2 women. I'll tell you the name of the woman off air. She ended up running as an independent politician and got hammered. Anyway, we had a handshake deal. It was going to be a Tonight Show hosted by an Indigenous Australian. I was going to have an in-studio band. I was able to choose the guests. Handshake deal done. And then when I got back, I said, listen, we need to have some more meetings. We need to work this out. I need something in writing. I need these ones. The lady who I spoke to said, no, that woman was in no position at all at any time to offer you that.
Wow.
It was just a thought bubble. Like, we shook hands. We had a deal. She showed us the studio, 3 cameras, a studio audience. And it was all... And I've come home, I'm high-fiving Nikki, and because I'd been punted from 2GB, and that was 2012. So that's why I'm thinking 2013. Anyway.
That's extraordinary.
It was all bullshit.
That's incompetence.
I'll tell you her name off the air. As Jim Killen would have said once, if that's not a good yarn, there's something wrong with all of us.
Mate, I mean, we've all had promises in our careers, but that is one hell of a... I mean, to me, that's a deal. And in actual fact, there's been cases in Hollywood where the handshake has been considered a contract and people have sued over that.
Yeah, my old boss at Bathurst, Ron Camplin, would have said, son, a verbal contract isn't worth the paper it's written on.
Well, he might be wrong in a court of law.
Anyway, she was making all these promises and she was in no position to make them. So anyway, there you go.
Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
There you go. Hey, listen, good to talk to you. Where do we see you? How do we find you?
You can find me at youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight. It's MCKNIGHT. And we stream live every Monday, Wednesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And on Tuesdays, I have Media McKnight, where I rip the Band-Aid off what's going on in the media industry.
I can't wait. Hey, listen, we love you, mate. Thank you for that. And I want that 38 seconds back because taxpayers who fund the ABC are feeling a little bit light on.
Yeah, absolutely.
38 seconds worth. Rob McKnight.
Welcome to a show called The Man Cave. Man Cave. With Boner on the mic, it's a good day. Good day. Adam McDonald and Kelsey too. Thomas behind the scenes, producing all the goods. Have a good time on a Friday.
Time for another Man Cave, one of my favourite segments that we do here on the Bonafide podcast. And the vice captain, who was at a toy store in Canberra last week, is back at his headquarters at Evans Hastings in Canberra. And once again, he's got the beanie on. I'm thinking -3 in Canberra today. Vice captain Adam McDonald from Evans Hastings, star of the TV show Aussie Pickers. Welcome back, brother, for more.
Yes, welcome back. Good to be back, Skip. I was out and about on the weekend at a country clearance sale. Very interesting day to have out there. The problem with these country clearance sales is because of all these dickheads who had these television shows and teaching people about, there's the collectible market, the place was packed. It was absolutely heaving. I think I was there for about 6 hours. I bought 3 things. So I got totally beaten up.
What did you buy?
I bought a vintage 1950s milkshake maker with the original milkshake glasses. I bought a Victorian parasol, and I bought an artwork.
All right. Any luck? Any news on the piano?
Oh, we're still going. It's sitting,
Bosendorf.
on the Bosendorfer. It's sitting at a shade over $6,000 at the moment, but I've had multiple people come in with technicians to check it out, to go over it with a fine-tooth comb. I've still got 8 days left on it. But the most exciting thing, Lukey, that I went out and had a look at a job over at Belco a couple of weeks ago, and I found a Furphy cart. Now,
the Furphy water cart.
The Furphy water cart. So anyone in the collectible game knows what a Furphy water cart is, and this is where the saying came from. He's telling a Furphy.
Yeah, yeah.
So these carts were dragged around the farm, so all the farm workers could have a drink of water, and everyone would stand at the back of the cart telling bullshit stories.
Literally, the 1800 version of the water cooler.
Exactly right. And so everyone would stand around and said, I did this, I did that, I've done this, I've done that, I used to shear 200 sheep a day, whatever, dude. You're telling a lie, so that's where the Furphy saying came from. But this Furphy cart, like I've been around the block a couple of times, this is complete. It's got both ends, it's got the original body, it's got the original axle, the original hubs, the original wheels, 2 seats. It's in absolutely ripping condition. So that'll go online. You can look at it in the next couple of days, but then it'll go live next week during my history sale. But for all you collectors out there that have been chasing a Furphy, I've got it, and I've got the one you need.
Now, Vice Captain, I was going to say a little bit of closure, but we're opening a big door here. Do you remember a few man caves ago, you were talking about television merchandise? And, you think of every TV show that you ever saw had merchandise going along with it. I remember I had a Partridge Family David Cassidy lunchbox, but every show worth watching, they would obviously distribute and sell merchandise as an extra form of revenue. We talked about the Romper Room merchandise that my parents bought me. And, we used to sit down with Miss Helena, and you had your Romper Room cup that you had your milk in, the Doobie placemat, all those toys that you saw in Romper Room. You had to go and buy them to feel part of the show.
That's right.
So at that clearance sale on Sunday, after us talking about television show merchandise, tell the folks what you found.
So just scanning, and what happens at these clearance sales? It's just really long trestles with all the lots just set up with the lot sticker on it. So I'm scanning along, and I found some Skippy merchandise. So in this lot, there was two cups and a saucer, a dinner plate, a bowl, and an iron-on badge, which was still in the packet, which is quite rare. The image of the Skippy was with Skippy, and what was the young fella's name?
Sonny.
So it's pictured. There's images of Skippy and Sonny, and it was in fair condition for its age. Like the decals are a little bit faded, but yeah, there it was, sitting in the middle of a paddock. Some Skippy merchandise.
I thought after you told me, and we'll have a look at that merchandise in a sec, but I thought after we were talking about this, one of my very good friends of many years, of nearly 40 years now, was one of the stars of Skippy. And he was Jerry, the chopper pilot. And his name is synonymous with Australian film and television. His name is Tony Bonner, Bonner, lives in Manly, born and bred. His grandfather was a mayor of Manly and a founding president of Manly Surf Life Saving Association. And Tony has had a nearly 60-year battle with the owners of Skippy to fight for royalties and part of the ownership of some of those valuable pieces of merchandise that he got none of. Now, the rest of the cast of Skippy, Ed Devereaux, who was Matt Hammond, has gone now. But Ken James went on to a rather prolific acting career and other things. Gary Pankhurst, who played Sonny, you were just talking about Sonny, refuses to have anything to do with it. But you can't find him. He won't talk.
Yeah, right.
But Tony Bonner is not only known for his part in Skippy as Jerry the chopper pilot with the red cap, but his acting career is as long as your arm, Adam.
Right.
And I remember watching They're a Weird Mob. And he was in that, and I got a funny feeling that he may have been in They're a Weird Mob before Skippy, because also in They're a Weird Mob was Ken James, who has a tiny little role as a bellboy in a hotel. But Ed Devereaux was one of the stars of They're a Weird Mob. And there's Tony Bonner, a hero surf lifesaver. He was an action man. They probably did have a Tony Bonner Jerry action figure, because this guy This guy was Mr. Action Man, way too good looking for his own goodness. He's been a friend of mine for a long, long time now. His battle, Skippy was 1968, Adam. To this day, a Tony Bonner has spent nearly 60 years after leaving the set of Skippy and has to this day failed to win a share of the television show's profits. And I thought, why don't we get him on the Man Cave, Vice Captain?
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome to the Man Cave, Tony Bonner.
Welcome, Tony.
Morning, gentlemen, and also morning to you, Luke.
We go back a long way, Tony. I remember talking to you in the very early 80s on 2LF and Young when we first heard about your battle against the owners, producers of Skippy. And here we are, 2026, still friends. We've talked on many occasions, but when Adam told me that he'd found the Skippy merchandise at a clearance sale, I said, let's get Tony Bonner on. And I know Adam's probably got lots of questions for you, but Tony, it's great to see you looking so well. Congratulations on a magnificent career. You should see Tony's list of acting achievements. I mean, he was in the miniseries Anzacs. He was in William Kelly's War, Landfall. In fact, he knows Barry Gibb, and there's a great Barry Gibb story because he was with Barry Gibb on Bandstand, Adam. He was in The End of Summer, The Mango Tree, The Money Movers. He was in, Adam, that iconic 1982 movie, The Man from Snowy River. He played Kane. The Last Frontier, The Light Horseman. He was in that film, Quigley Down Under. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. But he is probably, to our age group, Adam, best known as Jerry, the chopper pilot from Skippy. Tony, I know there's lots of questions the Vice Captain would like to ask you, so Adam, I'll let you take it away.
No, it's first of all, lovely to meet you, mate. You know, you're an absolute icon of Australian acting. When you signed on for Skippy, did you realise that it had turned into such an icon and such a long-lasting show? Like, I believe they still show it on one of the live channels now.
Oh, it's on Channel 9. It's on Channel 9 on the overnight sort of show between 1 hour infomercials, Adam.
Yeah.
But Skippy is still on Channel 9 on the 9 network. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's quite, and it's probably still running, Adam, Luke, in maybe 20 countries around the world. At one stage, it was running in 100 countries around the world. Skippy, God bless it, I would presume is the most successful television series ever made in Australia. I mean, Home and Away, Neighbours, obviously giant in England, and I was honoured. I was in both of those shows as well. But no Australian television series has had the worldwide release and viewing of the show Skippy, the Bush Kangaroo. None.
Tell me this. Was there more than one Skippies?
Oh, yeah, there were countless.
Right.
Skippies. It's a bit like Flipper. It's a bit like Lassie. It's a bit like,
Rin-Tin-Tin?
I mean,
was there more than one Lassie? Surely not.
Oh yeah. Because
and Lassie was a male.
Correct. And Skippy,
wow.
God bless, if you ever saw the rear end of Skippy was not a little girl. I can assure you there were a set of certain accoutrements hanging from the back of the...
And I remember, Tony, you telling me years ago, Adam, you'll love this. If you ever watch Skippy, there was always a close-up of Skippy's paws putting something in her pouch or opening a door. Or they were kangaroo paws on a stick.
Oh, you can tell. You could tell.
Yeah.
You could tell.
And, Adam, Skippy very near and dear to me because it was right in my childhood, 1968. But we lived at Eleanor Heights in Narrabeen. Waratah National Park is just up the road.
Just a pistol shot away.
It's at Ingleside, Terry Hills. You go up Powder Works Road, turn right, then next left. And you'd go there on weekends, Adam. They had trampolines. The Ranger headquarters was there. It was a set. You could walk around and see animals. You'd see Skippy in a cage or one of the Skippies. But it was just literally, Tony, a 10-minute car drive for us, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That was the great days of my motorcycling as well, up through Wackers Parkway, which was a great run always. Actually, the address there, Luke, was Duffy's Forest.
Duffy's Forest. It was indeed. It really was. Smokey Dawson had a ranch
Smokey was about a 2 kilometres back down Mona Vale Road before you got to our turn-off to go to the set.
Yeah, you had Smokey Dawson's ranch, Adam.
Yep.
2Ks down the road, you had Waratah National Park. It was right just up from the Baha'i Temple. So
Correct.
It was,
yeah, I know where you're talking about.
It was just fantastic. But the merchandise, Tony, take us through this long battle you've had.
The battle was not that long. It was only about kind of 10 years ago that I was assisting someone who wanted to open up an agency, a friend of mine, a modelling acting agency, and I was sitting with that lady explaining to her what I believed she should be looking at in building this structure, this agency. Her husband, who was a friend of mine, was sitting nearby, and at the end of the chat with Sandra, he said to me, Tone, whatever happened about the royalties or merchandising off your old show? And I said, well, nothing happened because we were cut out of the loop. He said, well, that's not right. I've seen merchandising with your image on it. So you own your image, Tony. They don't own that. There should be a fee applicable to the merchandising.
A residual, Adam, is that what they're...
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it really went from there, Adam. Luke, he said to me, look, I'm prepared to knock up some paperwork and take it forward. And I said, well, look, you're a top barrister in your field. I don't have the sort of fees to cover your expenses. He said, look, we'll sort that out down the rocky road. Anyway, we went into the process. We went to court. The judge at the time wouldn't rule on the situation. We were advised to take it to the High Court.
Wow!
But now you're talking about big money. Big time. And if you lose in the High Court, you pick up all the expenses.
So you needed Charles Bud Tingwell, like he did in the castle, to come and look after you.
Well, kind of. And this fellow was that good. It really came down to, this is what will happen. We could go in there thinking of the victory, and we were advised that from the 7 High Court judges, we would get a ruling on the information and the situation we would take forward. We would get possibly a 5-2 victory, 6-1 at the worst. You never usually get a blanket 7-0 because one of the judges will hold out for whatever reason. But it was down to me advising or indicating to my barrister to go ahead. And I didn't want him to take that kind of financial risk. And so we didn't go ahead to the High Court. Would it have been worth it? I don't know, Luke. It was really, this came from my talking, as I'm saying to my friend, the barrister. Look, I would have been happy after all these years. No one's ever contacted me to say, hey, thank you for all your involvement and your supportive, positive talk about the show. Look, can we buy you a ham sandwich and a cup of coffee?
I guess the thing that resonates with me is that in that period of time, that's when merchandise really exploded.
Correct.
Right, sort of earlier than that, that's when all those xylenite cups and saucers and plates and lunch boxes and all that sort of stuff, that's when that really, really exploded. I guess the hard thing for me would be, how do you differentiate with who gets what? Like anything with your image on it, you get a cut. Anything with Sonny's image on it, he gets a cut. It's a really great path because this was a first. Like we no one had to deal with merchandise, or I could understand with reruns and the show's still getting played. I can totally agree with that, where everyone gets a fair cut. But I think with the merchandise, it's a really hard thing to judge. Like, most of that merchandise now would be sold on the second-hand market for cash money. So how can you monitor? It's really hard to monitor.
Correct. So it's never been, as I was just suggesting or saying, it wasn't something that I instigated. It was a legal friend of mine said, this is not correct because your image, your name, your everything is being used. He said, I've seen Jerry Dolls in the uniform standing near a helicopter. I've seen your name and face on jigsaw puzzles, on tea towels, on games, on dinner barbecue sets, and that's not correct. And I said, well, life's not correct, my friend, but if you want to do something about it, great.
Like when I mean, I'm talking chalk and cheese here, Tony. Like when I signed on for Aussie Pickers, the contract was absolutely ironclad. You will not get anything else bar the initial payment. If we replay it for 20 years, it's too bad. We own it, and it was absolutely ironclad. Like it's still. You can still pick it up on 7 Mate. Apparently, we're really big in Portugal and that sort of area, and it just gets played nonstop. So I guess the contract that you would have signed initially, it may have I don't know, it may have had those clauses in it. Like this is it. That's what you get. You don't be upset.
Well, Adam, it came up in court. And Tony, tell me if I'm wrong, but you signed on for $148 a week back when it started.
Yeah,
and a judge in the federal court said that was your work agreement. There was no talk at all in your work agreement of residuals or merchandise.
Correct.
And it was fairly cut and dried. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe so. I can't remember exactly, Luke, but the money wasn't much more than that for memory. In 1967, when we started, we shot the pilot.
148 a week. What's 148 a week in today's money, I wonder?
A cup of coffee.
Big.
I have no idea. Again, look, I did the show not because of the thought that this is going to be a internationally successful show. I did that show because in 1967, and you were correct in your lead into this, Luke, I'd done They're a Weird Mob, the feature film, for the same producers. That's why Kenny was in the show and Eddie Devereaux and a couple of other people were in the Skippy Fauna production setup because we'd all done They're a Weird Mob, the film. So we had a working knowledge. The boss then, John McCallum of the Thwarted Productions, the Skippy company, I'd worked for many times when he was general manager of J.C. Williamson's theatres. I started in theatre and did a lot of shows in the 60s for J.C. Williamson's theatre. It was like a marriage of convenience. Everyone knew each other, and it was kind of, in those days, Luke, in the 60s, we nearly worked for a handshake. If a producer said to me, hey, Tone, there's a character in this I'd love you to do, if that interested me, I'd shook his hand, and that was as good as any paperwork for me. If I shook someone's hand on a deal, that was pretty damn good from my point of view. I didn't need to sign a document, and I persist that to these days. If I go into a picture or a series or a play or something these days, I'm just as happy to shake someone's hand as I am to sign a 20-page document.
Tony, is it true that Ed Devereaux, Matt Hammond, head ranger, is it true that towards the end he hated Skippy because he felt he was typecast?
Well, not so much typecast, Luke. I was very close to Ed. We were really close pals. We did a couple of films together. We did The Money Movers, which was a great film. Bruce Beresford directed that film. It was based on an armoured car robbery.
It was.
Yeah, it was a great film. So Eddie and I did that film together. You know, we were good pals. Ed certainly had a dislike for the company when he left. Very kind of sad and angry man to a degree, because some of the understandings that he had were never delivered to him.
Tell me this, The Man from Snowy River. Wow.
Yes, good film.
Which was the real breaking point for Tom Burlinson, amongst others. What was it like filming that?
Well, it was great. I mean, to work with a true American icon in Kirk Douglas.
Kirk Douglas came out this.
Yeah, and for me to play his foreman. So just about every scene I had in that film was with Kirk. And it's such a great story, such a good cast.
A great soundtrack. Great sound.
Well, Bruce Rowland's music. Anyone that hasn't seen the concert performance of They're a Weird Mob, please go and see it. They run the film, and Bruce is there with the Sydney Philharmonic or the Victorian Philharmonic conducting the music live to the film.
Wow.
It's sensational.
Absolutely amazing, Tony. And I'll tell you, I got to ask you this. So Gary Pankhurst, Sonny, has completely divorced himself from the show. Why is that?
I don't know. I've got to be honest. If Gary came and sat next to me here now, I probably wouldn't recognise him. I saw Gary when he was a 12-year-old boy. I was working overseas. I lived in England for 4 or 5 years filming in America. I didn't see Gary until maybe Channel 9 had a 25th year anniversary. So that's like 25 years ago. And I didn't recognise Gary then because he had gone from being a 12-year-old boy in a little striped T-shirt into being a man.
That iconic sunny striped T-shirt.
Correct.
And did he really learn to whistle Skippy on a gum leaf, or was that dubbed over? Come on.
Yeah. That's all. That's no one can. Yeah. I don't know anyone that can do that. Hey.
Oh, remember Jess Eva could do that. Remember
really?
Jess Eva, our friend Jess Eva?
That was her mum.
Oh.
Jess Eva's mum was on Red Faces on Hey Hey way back in the day.
Yeah.
And she played the gum leaves, and I think her husband played the spoons.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Ken James went on to other things as well.
Kenny went to
he was on the box.
Yeah, I left the show. Before Skippy finished and went to England after I had a bit of a fallout with them over the situation we were just talking about. And so I said, thank you. It's been a joy. And I left and went to England. That was about end of 68.
Wow.
Maybe, I went off. Ken stayed with the show. The show went on for about another year and a bit. They didn't ever tell the audience that Jerry, the character I played, had left the show. When they needed the helicopter, they just hired an actor, and Eddie Devereaux would say, oh, we need the chopper to do something, and Jerry's away. He's in Sydney doing something. So they would hire an actor to come and play that character for that episode. And they didn't ever tell the mob that I wasn't in the show.
Did you get to keep the red cap?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
but I'll tell you, we were just talking about an old car of mine here, and I will show you something.
It's
Luke.
German.
Yeah, is it German?
It's German.
Hold up. Hang on.
There you go.
We normally leave this segment to the very end.
Look,
but we may as well.
I'm undoing that bit of paper, and inside there is my Flight Ranger badge I wore on my uniform.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Flight Ranger.
There's
the badge.
I just found that piece of paper when you asked me to look for that old car. I found that piece of paper, and that was inside it. Flight Ranger.
What's that worth, Adam? That's the original Flight Ranger badge that he wore in Skippy.
It'll be worth something. It'll be definitely worth something. It would definitely worth something.
Well, I just remembered that when you asked me to find my favourite old toy as a boy.
Well, we're going to get to that. I'll put that back for a moment. Put that back. We're going to get to that. That's okay. Because we ask our guests their favourite toy from when they were little. There's one more cast member, Tony Bonner, I've got to ask about. Now, here on the Man Cave.
Yes.
It's just us.
Yes.
Lisa Goddard.
What a gem. What a jewel.
Adam, spelled with a Z. She played young Clancy, who came to live with the Hammond family, and she was studying music at the conservatorium in the story. She had bangs, Adam. She had a fringe.
She did.
Pigtails. And Tony Bonner, just between you and me and the vice captain.
Yes.
I detected sparks.
There was
and Lisa. Come on now. Is it?
Fess up.
Come on. That's why you ran away to London.
Well, no. I ran away because if I had have stayed after I left Skippy, every 2 or 3 roles that kind of came straight up for me were similar roles. You're
diverting. No, you're deflecting.
I am.
Tony, you are deflecting. I can tell a deflect. Well, I can smell one of my. Back to Lisa Goddard and Clancy. Was there, as Greg Evans would say when the couples returned on Perfect Match from their weekend, was there any romance?
There was a meeting of the souls.
Ah! See, he's a gentleman, Adam. He's a gentleman.
Yeah.
What? Come on. There was something, wasn't there?
We were great pals. I saw her when in England because she stayed on with the show, obviously, after I left until it finished. And then Lisa came back to England. She started a series in England called 3 Girls Sharing. British
Wow.
series, and I was over there. I'd just done a film in Malta.
I went straight there, Lukey.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. I've taught you well. I've taught you well. I've got to say a couple of things because I know Adam. I'll let Adam take over again in a second, and we're running out of time. But my cousin Annabelle, on her bedroom, and they lived in her bedroom out the back. She had posters on her wall of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Paul Newman, Robert Redford.
Good film.
She had David Cassidy.
Yes.
And she had Tony Bonner, Jerry, the Chopper Pilot. She had your poster on her wall. So you're up there in very good company.
Well, I thank her for that.
Yeah, I'm just glad that's all you have to thank her for. I knew there was something between you and Clancy. I knew it. And one more thing, Adam, did you know this? And I could be wrong. But at the beginning of our chat, Tony said, yeah, Skippy was like Lassie, like Flipper. Well, my understanding is Skippy was based on Flipper. Now, if you think about Flipper, there's a native animal in a national park and being looked after by a park ranger who's widowed and his two sons.
Correct.
So Skippy was kind of like Flipper, but with a kangaroo on land. How am I going?
No question. But all those kind of shows were Lassie, Fury, and it was usually back at that stage a father figure that ran the whatever the storyline was about. But yeah, you're right. You're right. There's a format. There's a format of when you construct a show, the age of the children, all those kind of demographics are built into this structure.
Let me just point this out to you, Adam. So you look at that structure, and you often had a father who was nearly always widowed. They didn't talk about divorce.
Correct.
In the Brady Bunch, it was kind of never really explained what happened to Carol's husband, the girl's father. But you think about My Three Sons. You think about the courtship of Eddie's father. You think about all those shows where Family Affair with Brian Keith.
Yep.
And it was all about children being raised by a father doing it on his own. And the breakaway story, Adam, was Julia, who was a black woman, a nurse, raising a child. And that was out there, that it was a woman raising a child. It was nearly always the format of father raising 2 or 3 children, correct?
I'll tell you quickly, Luke, if I may, the reason why Lisa was in the show, the character of Clancy was in the show, but she wasn't there in the original pilot when we shot the pilot, or the original couple of episodes. It was spoken about in higher circles, obviously in the network or in the production company, that the show had 4 males. There was no female connection. So the girl Clancy character was written in the show to break up the maleness of
right.
Yeah. Sure.
Isn't that funny? And she came to live with...
There's no such thing as a new idea. Even back then, like people are just copying each other.
Sure.
Like it seems crazy to me. Surely just someone can come up with a new idea.
Well, they tried that. They tried, I can remember a terrific American series that to me had the first homosexual character in there, and it was brilliant. The series was called Soap, and it was very funny.
Oh, yes.
Very funny. I mean, that broke away a little from the usual format.
In the TV series The Box, which had Ken James in it.
Yeah, I did. I was in that as well, Luke. I played an actor that came in to work on the series that the show was about.
Well, that featured Australia's first on-screen lesbian kiss, which was...
Yeah.
But then number 96...
At the first...
Oh, yes.
With Joe Hasham...
Yes.
Playing Donald Finlayson. God, listen to me. I haven't even got my notes in front of me.
Yeah.
That was Australia's first open homosexual relationship on telly.
Correct.
A lot of breakthrough ground being made on Australian television. Adam McDonald. One last thing, Adam, because I've got to tell Tony this story.
Yeah.
A few years ago, Tony, I was privileged enough, lucky enough to be invited to lunch at Otto's with Lawsy. And we got talking. And I said, Lawsy, remember the time you were on Skippy? And he said, oh, yeah, I remember it like yesterday. He played a bloke called Honest Jack. And he was a dishonest land developer type real estate agent who tried to sell Ranger headquarters. And he used a watch on a chain to hypnotize Sonny.
Oh, God.
Anyway, Skippy actually holds the watch. You remember at the very end, Skippy's little paws on a stick hold this watch. And I was talking to Lawsy about this, And he said, "You want to know something? I've still got that very watch." He still kept the watch where he played Honest Jack on Skippy. And what about Frank Thring?
Oh, well, because I'd done theatre with Frank, and when Frank came on the set to play the character that he played with us, we were standing together, and Frank looked out on the ground, and a couple of metres away from us on the ground was a Hessian bag that was moving. And Frank said, "Tony, dear boy, what the devil's that?" And I said, "Oh, Frank, that's the star. That's Skippy." Inside the Hessian bag, because they were happier inside a pouch, inside a bag.
Of course they were.
Frank said to me, he said, "Good God, if that's the star's dressing room, what's mine like?"
Frank Thring. Oh, wonderful Frank Thring. Anyone we know.
Oh, he was great.
He was great, Frank Thring. Adam, I'll let you take over.
The whole TV game's probably changed a lot now. You know, they could put any old knucklehead on television, but I think I really
look at you.
Exactly right. Like I remember when I got asked to do it, and I'm just like, me, and like I didn't understand, but anyway, I really enjoyed it. But just going back to your the badge that you've got. Yes. I remember when I first sat down with the producers and they had a stylist come in, and I put that in inverted commas because it was a bit dubious to me, and they're talking about what we're going to wear on the show. And because, you know, we're all about going to farms and junkyards and thrift shops and buying stuff to resell. And this fellow looked at me and said, I'm thinking a pink polo shirt with a pop collar. And I looked at him, and then I looked at the producer and I said, I'm out. I'm not wearing a pink polo shirt with a pop collar. So at the end of the day, they said, so what are you going to wear? I said, why don't I just wear what I wear? Like, why don't I wear a flannelette shirt and a hat? That's what I wear. That's what, and that became synonymous with my uniform. That just going back to that badge, you could probably ask whatever you like for that thing. Like it is a one-off. It is on every show, and it is, and the provenance is perfect. It is from you.
Would you sell it, Tony?
Well, Benny, make me an offer.
Yeah, an offer you can't refuse. Yeah. Tony, you're not far from me. Either this week or next week, I'm going to come down to your place.
Yes.
And have a look around that room you're in now.
Yes.
And maybe we can have a cup of tea or a beer down at the Stain.
Sure.
And I'd love to have a catch up. Can we do that?
We sure can, Luke. Sure can. I catch you through the week on GB when you go on there and ramble overnight. I listened to that little segment.
Yeah, the Boner Report.
The Boner, yes.
And speaking of putting any dickhead on television, what about me on Sunrise every week? 12 years, and they keep asking me back. I have no idea why. So that car, we ask our special guests on the Man Cave.
Yes.
To usually, Adam, we ask what's a toy you had when you were young that you wish you had back, but you've got it. Adam, take over.
So it's quite an interesting car, this, because it's British made. It's a British company, but it was made in Germany, and they used to have this area called the British area. So it's made by a company called Parameta, and it's a Buick 405. Now, the most interesting thing about this, Tony, is the condition that yours is in. Like, with these toys, because they're used so often, and you know the kids are running around the house with them, you never ever find it with the key.
Yeah, well.
And excuse the pun, the key to that car is the key, and it's the figural key. It's not a remake, it's an original key. It's in great condition for its age. If that came up for sale, I reckon you're looking around $400, maybe $500.
Okay.
It's a very rare car, especially to have it in that condition that you've got.
Okay. Thank you for that.
There it is. What's it called, Adam?
It's called a Parameta Buick 405. So Parameta is the company that made it. And like it's one of those interesting sort of post-war companies where there was a British manufacturing company still in Germany.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting little crossover. So yeah, great little thing. Very good collectible. So hang on to that.
I've had that since I was about 10 years old.
Yeah. Good thing.
And I got it. I can even tell you where I received it from my Auntie Jean in Margaret Street, Fairlight.
Wow. Can I just jump in, Adam?
Yeah.
My grandparents, you know Pop, who I marched for, who fought at Villas Bretno, James Rupert Reed, R-E-A-D, when they moved from Willoughby to Queenscliff, Adam, they owned a semi in Bonner Avenue, B-O-N-N-E-R.
Yeah, right.
It's one street back from the ocean.
Yeah.
It's at Queenscliff, and they lived at Bonner Avenue, named after your grandfather.
Yeah,
Wow,
correct. I often walk or ride down Bonner Avenue, thinking how great if I could ever afford to get a unit there one day to have a letter delivered to me, Bonner at Bonner.
Oh yes, wouldn't that be good?
Yeah,
isn't that amazing? They moved from 96 Mowbray Road, Willoughby.
I live on Mowbray Road. That's my turf. That's my stomping ground.
Yeah.
There you are, to Bonner Avenue, Queenscliff, Tony, and they lived on the right-hand side. The semi they had renters on the left, and it was, what would it be worth now, Tony?
I mean, if the semi's still there, and it's probably not, they're mainly units now. Oh, the unit.
No, it's
well, that's worth a fortune.
When you come down over the hill and you turn right at those shops.
Yes.
Then first left.
Yes.
Second from the end on the corner.
Wow. That's worth a fortune.
Adam, is there anything you'd like to finish up with?
I'd just like to finish up. Make sure everybody goes to ehva.com.au. Just get back onto my Instas. What's it honestly worth? Very important. You'll be able to see everything I'm doing in the auction game. I'm out and about. You want me to look at anything, value anything, try and help you sell anything, Adam at ehva.com.au. That's my game.
And can we have a round of applause? For our very special guest, Tony Bonner. Tony, you've made our day. Thank you very much, brother.
No, thank you, gentlemen. I had a great time. It's nice, always nice to go back over old ground.
Lovely to meet you.
Good on you, bud. Thank you.
Thanks, Skip. Thanks, Kels.
Thanks.
See you,
I can see you in a hurry. Adam, thank you, mate.
I've got people up. Ta-da.
Thank you so much for listening. Remember, the merch store is open. We want your comments. We love them. We want your suggestions. And if there's someone you'd like us to get on the Bonafide podcast, we will do our darndest to get them on.
Any thought of the day?
I've got some good news for you.
Mm-hmm.
I've decided I've stopped talking to myself.
Why?
Well, we had a fight, and I reckon he's a dickhead, and I reckon he is.
I reckon they're both right.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I used to think you were witty. Turns out I was half right.
Goodbye.